Jimenez, Perales, Cohen,
Here.
Roscoe, Davis, Esparza,
Here.
Arenas,
Here.
Foley,
Here.
Mahan,
Here.
Jones,
Present.
Licardo.
Present.
You have a quorum.
Roscoe's here.
Thank you.
Perales is here too.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, everyone. So if we are to follow the directions of the Rules Committee and the most recent motion that was approved, I believe that means that we're going to jump over to handle two land use items. First, 10.2, which is the plan development rezoning at 1260 East Santa Clara Street. So we'll call that item now, and then we'll return to the prior item when we are concluded. There will be a presentation.
Thank you, Mayor. Chris Burton, Director of Planning, Building Code Enforcement. I think in the interests of time, we're willing just to make a couple of brief remarks related to this project, and then move to council questions and discussion. As you noted, this is the plan development rezoning of the site located at 1260 East Santa Clara Street. The action before you tonight is two-part. It's one, to adopt a resolution adopting the Empire Lumber Mixed-Use Negative Declaration, for which an initial study was prepared, an associated mitigation monitoring and reporting plan in accordance with SEQA, and then to approve an ordinance adopting the proposed plan development rezoning from commercial general to a CP PDC. So we're happy just to answer questions related to the project, if that makes sense.
Okay, thanks, Chris. Let's go to members of the public first, and then we'll come back. Eric Schenauer. Eric, I believe you're the applicant, is that right?
That's correct. I represent the applicant.
Okay, so Nora, I believe the applicant gets 5 minutes, is that right?
That's correct, Mayor.
Okay,
Yes, but I don't intend to use it.
thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Licardo, members of the council. My name is Eric Schenauer. I represent the landowner and the applicant on this this project. We would appreciate your support for the rezoning of the development. The planning staff recommends approval. The Planning Commission unanimously recommends approval. And as you know, Councilmember Perales has issued a memo recommending approval as long as the project is consistent with the urban village plan, which by requirement it will be. So the project is a key location, walking distance to the future BART station, and it is a mixed use development that accommodates up to 406 residential units and 60,000 square feet of commercial space. It is consistent with every aspect of the community plan and the urban village plan. So it's all positive. We hope that you will approve it so that we can move forward. I do have to note, though, that we just passed the 6-year mark of processing this application. And it is a poster child for the incredibly flawed urban village implementation policies of the general plan in the city. And I don't want to burden you tonight with that, but I look forward in the coming weeks and months of getting deep into a conversation about the flaws of the general plan, the flaw application of the urban village policies that are hindering us from achieving housing and jobs in our city. With that, I thank you for your attention and hope that you will support the project.
Thank you. Tony, would you please
Yes.
call the other members of the community?
Tessa Woodmansey,
Thank you. Yes, this project is very similar to the project that I'm dealing with our neighborhood as the president of the Garden Alameda Village Association that I am is dealing with. It's a hotel in a residential neighborhood, and it's the same issues that this whole neighborhood is up in arms again about. It's the bulk of it. It's the size of it. It's the fact that it is a neighborhood, and like our neighborhood has been saying, we want neighbors, not transients. We want that's the important issue. And so and we want housing, not hotels. And the plan is about hotels, and that's what is in the past. We don't need hotels in our community. And so this is the problem. And Chris Burton said in the general plan, it's not about, housing is the crisis, and it's not about jobs. We have to get back to basics.
Maria Bedolla.
Yes, I want to urge all city council members to actually go pay a visit to this location. If you were to pay a visit, you would know that this is the center for a lot of livelihoods for a lot of small business owners. This is where, in the midst of the COVID pandemic, a lot of people set shop for their business to stay afloat. And I echo the same sentiment. If we want to talk about housing, this is not it. If we want affordable housing, this is not it. Luxury homes, luxury hotels to appease the tech companies, to sell off more San Jose, come on. It's a major disappointment. And city council members need to get in touch with the community that you so claim represent and actually listen and engage to the issues. This is, as someone who's born and raised here, I'm tired of this. Absolutely tired.
Blair Beekman.
Hi, Blair Beekman here. Hello to Tessa. I just came from San Diego, and boy, they develop things amazingly fast down there. I'm sure a lot are jealous here in San Jose, but I really like the slow pace of San Jose. Urban villages are a bit controversial. I like the slow pace that we go with them. I hope we can continue that sort of slow pace. There's also a question that in 6 months' time, the good subsidy plans that are helping us out right now could start to be used for high-end developers of urban villages and their real estate plans. I don't think that's the right use of subsidy. I think subsidies are really meant for people in need and who really need it, and they're not meant to serve high-end rich developers. I think we really have to have this conversation in the next 6 months and be very wary of the developers' previous words on moving forward with urban villages in the future. Thank you.
Colin user 1.
Oh, you guys, it's all about real estate for this city council. They put on a liberal elite type faith to them, but in the end, it's just all about real estate. Who's going to get the deals, and who gets the opportunity housing, who gets the urban village, who gets low income housing. It's just they pay their voters back by giving them goodies from the taxpayer. And this is a city that's concerned about pollution and water, electrical use, can't have natural gas anymore. Look, they need to stop what's going on and use what's already here. There's plenty of empty office spaces and places that have already been zoned for housing that they could redo. But to build more and more, it's totally insane.
Paul Soto.
Yes, Paul Soto from the Horseshoe. Certain council members from D3 think they can walk around and speak Spanish and get con other people into believing that this person is a representative of them. What I have to tell D3 is that this man is a sociopath, straight sociopath, and I define a sociopath as a
Mr.
human
Soto,
being.
you need to focus on the item that's on the agenda.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, because downtown, the takeover of downtown is sociopathic. So why don't you let me finish, Mayor, my train of thought, and then you'll get my point. So thank you for interrupting me, but I'll still go on. Anyways, Perales is creating this deal. Do you know what that building is? That building used to be the first Masonic Lodge, and all Masonic Lodge 10 used to meet right there at that corner. I know this city. I know exactly what I'm talking about. And that particular piece of property, Perales, you're conning the people, dude. I know so.
Eric Schonauer,
This is the applicant returning to respond to the comments. Am I the last speaker?
yes, you are. And I believe you had 2 minutes left.
Okay, that's fine. I just want to make it clear, as I don't understand what any of the public commenters are mentioning. So just to clear up the facts, this Empire Lumber location is simply a zoning that allows residential and commercial uses. There is no hotel proposed, so I don't know who's talking about hotels. The site has nothing to do with a Masonic lodge, so I don't know where that's coming from. And with regard to small businesses, there's only one business on the entire site. It is a used car dealership. And I don't want to diminish the value of that business, but this is not a site that has numerous small businesses who are trying to recover from COVID, whoever was mentioning that. So just wanted to clear that up. And I hope that the council will stay focused on the staff, planning commission, and council member recommendation of approval. Thank you.
While Eric was speaking, all USA Motors raised their hand.
Okay.
Hi, I just want to make sure that the council can hear me okay.
Yes.
Yes, I am the owner of the used car dealership that is on the property. Our main concern is obviously our business. You know, we are a small business that has been in this community for several years. We do provide a lot of transportation needs for the general public at the location. Of course, our concern is for our business to make sure that we have a place to conduct business. A lot of displacement has been occurring with a lot of used car dealerships in the area and has been affecting the actual the business model itself, and it has caused a lot of issues with the business itself in regards to where consumers can get their used vehicles and whatnot. And obviously, we would like to have some type of help in regards to where we would be in the future. So,
Eric Schonauer, you have 1 minute left of your 5 minutes.
I don't have anything further to say, except that the tenant, the used car operator who just spoke, expressed concern to us that a council vote would immediately end their tenancy, and that's not the case. So the business can continue to operate until physical construction begins here, which won't happen anytime soon. So there is no immediate risk to impact that business from the council decision, since this is only a zoning, and there would be much more work before a detailed project is ever reviewed and approved by the city. Thank you.
Back to council.
Thank you. And I can assure the tenant of the property that Mr. Schoenauer is accurate in saying it's going to be a while before construction gets started. Councilmember Perales.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. And I think there was clearly some confusion in regards to some of the public comments in what's on the site or what's previously been on the site. And I think as well the engagement from the community. My office has been engaged actually for the entirety of the 6 years with the neighbors in this area here. Number one, first off, as the urban village plan was developed, and then through the process of this particular development site as well, in leading to where we're at today. and hence the memo that I put out. That was actually the main interest and concern of the community that helped develop the urban village plan, which I would agree with Eric, and I think our community members would too, in regards to the inefficiencies, the deficiencies of our urban village process. But nonetheless, we're moving forward with this one, and the main interest from the community today is, as stated in my memo, that they would just like to see that it does conform, and as Eric mentioned, that is obviously that's the intent, and that's the requirement there with the urban village plan. So we look forward to the next step in the process. And actually, I wanted to ask Eric, if you could, when do you expect you might submit for your plan development permit?
Yeah, sorry, I was muted. There really is no timeline, council member. At this point, the longtime property owner has just worked to get this zoning approved, and there is absolutely no current plan on the next step. So it's unknown.
Oh, okay. Unknown at the point. So then there, I think as well, today was the first time I had heard from the All USA Motors, the current tenant on the site, which we were aware of, but I also hadn't heard from them through the process that we've had, but would be happy to hear from them if they wanted to reach out to my office individually. And then the hope would be, obviously just the communication is clear. It sounds like today it's unknown in regards to the when that process will start for your plan development permit, which then in essence, I think would certainly lay out quite some time before there's actually construction breaking ground and when somebody, the current tenant, would have to leave. But appreciate
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate the work that's gone into it too from our staff. And with that, I will move my memo.
Second.
And that's my replacement memo, by the way, which clarified because I had stated the incorrect urban village the first time around. Thanks.
Thank you. I think the motion was it was seconded by Councilmember Davis. I just wanted to give either Michael or Chris, if they wanted any opportunity at a brief rebuttal with regard to the challenges of urban villages. I do recall there being a proposal here that didn't conform initially, but did you want to just speak to that issue at all about the 6 years?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the issue because I was trying to get on Zoom and having technical problems. So
okay, we'll let it go then. We'll move on.
Okay.
All right. Any other comments? All right, let's vote.
Jimenez,
Yes.
Peralez,
Yes.
Cohen,
Aye.
Carrasco,
Aye.
Davis,
Yes.
Esparza,
Yes.
Arenas,
Yes.
Foley,
Aye.
Mahan,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Liccardo.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, item 10.3 is a conforming rezoning and special use permit for a site at 1212 South Winchester Boulevard. We have a presentation here as well, I believe.
Yeah, again, I think we'll forego the presentation, just make a couple of quick comments. I'm going to hand it over to Robert just to give us a brief intro on this one.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. Robert Manford, Deputy Director for Planning. This item was referred from November 16th, 2021 council hearing. It entails conforming rezoning from the R-1-8 zoning district to the CP zoning district. And there's a special use permit component of it to allow the demolition of 2 existing buildings and associated structures on the site, including removal of 9 trees and construction of a 107,079 square foot, 6-story, 119-room hotel, and a 49% parking reduction with a TDM plan. From a CEQA perspective, an initial study MND was prepared for the project, and it was circulated from May 26, 2021 to June 15, 2021. All comments have been fully responded to as part of the records.
I'm sorry, Robert, just one moment. Can I please ask everybody to mute? Thank you. Thank you, Robert. Go ahead.
Sure. And from a community engagement standpoint, a meeting was held on August 10th, 2020, and key concerns and issues included the building height and privacy issues, traffic impact, hotel operations and insufficient staffing, inadequate parking and on-site circulation, noise and vibration, health effects and trash removal, as well as shade shadow impacts. Since from yesterday to today, we've had communication or correspondence from the applicant regarding the 3 items that staff is recommending, which is the adoption of a resolution adopting the MND for the proposed project, and then approval of the ordinance rezoning the site from the R-1-8 single-family residence to the CP commercial zoning district. The applicant is requesting that item number 3, which is adoption of the resolution approving subject to conditions, the special use permits and the site development permits be deferred or dropped. That request is also consistent with Vice Mayor Chappie Jones' memo to not take action on that item. But since this was, the application was processed by staff as part of the municipal code's requirement for the concurrent review, we wanted the City Council to know about it. Thank you, and we are available to answer any questions that the council may have.
Thanks, Robert. We'll come back to you for questions. Let's go to the public first, Tony. And I
Also-
believe the applicant may be first in line.
What's the applicant's name?
I believe, actually, I see Henry Cord. I believe he represents the applicant.
Oh, he's on the panelist side.
Yeah. Okay, Henry, do you want to be heard? Henry? If you're trying, oh, Henry may not be able to hear us right now. Oh,
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now, Henry.
Oh, good, good. Yes. Senate Bill 1333 requires rezoning in accordance to the general plan. The other thing is that we have worked with the neighbors and will continue to work with the neighbors on resolving the use permit for a hotel. But at this time, we just want to have the rezoning approved in accordance with SB 1399. And I thank you for my time.
Thank you, Henry. Forgive me, I believe I was supposed to go to Vice Mayor Jones. Adam, could you please mute your device? Thank you. All right. I believe I was supposed to go to Vice Mayor Jones. You wanted to disclose an item.
Yes, Mayor. I need to disclose an inadvertent Brown Act violation. My office met with you, Mayor, D4, D6, and D9, and we discussed information regarding the proposed development, particularly the community's concerns, and my plan to submit a memo. At the time, I wasn't aware that a detailed conversation had taken place with one of my Brown Act members and D10, which created a 6 member of the Brown Act, which created the violation. So I just want to make that disclosure.
Okay, so Vice Mayor Jones is disclosing a violation, and my understanding is the cure for a violation is disclosure prior to any consideration of vote. Is that right?
That's correct, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. I believe Mr. Ascari, you're the applicant, is that right?
That's correct, Your Honor.
Okay. Would you like to say a few things before we proceed to the public?
I want to know what we requested that the rezoning to be heard tonight, as well as environmental, before I give my presentation. But my understanding, please correct me if I'm wrong, if Mr. Vice Mayor agreed to only hear the rezoning and environmental study, then I shorten my speech. So we want to know what would be the verdict would be, or I should do my 5 minutes presentation whatever.
Mr. Ascari, I can't give you the verdict yet because that requires my colleagues to vote first.
Oh, I
So,
see.
so you have a memorandum from Vice Mayor Jones, certainly, but you should advocate for your project as you think is appropriate.
Sure. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Adam Ascari. This is my 5th project in City of San Jose. I practiced in City of San Jose for past 30 years, and I mainly invest in urban village only. I understand that some neighbors are not pleased with the circumstances around this project, but I would like to remind everyone that the urban village has unanimously approved by the same currently sitting council members in 2017. This urban village plan went through a massive study and discussion in the city for 7 years. I attended most of the meeting and workshop in regard to urban village. I remember vividly a few of the neighbors were unhappy while shouting and expressing their disagreement with the urban village, yet urban village was unanimously approved by the city council. Very recently, we got approval for 11-story building on a 20,000 square feet lot that consists of 79 residential units in District 6. I would like to thank Honorable Councilwoman Mrs. Davis for her support. My team and I worked with city council staff to create this hotel project. The city staff did a wonderful job looking out for our neighborhood best interests. Some council members or neighbors may not know, but the city made us give up 1/3 of our property to improve the neighborhood without any compensation. Again, I repeat, city made us dedicate 1/3 of our property to improve the neighborhood without any compensation. As a result of dedication, Winchester Boulevard would be widened from 2 lanes to 3 lanes. In addition, there would be a dedication of 200 feet by 20 feet of sidewalk, which we don't have now. These are the benefits which urban village will bring into the neighborhood. Please keep in mind, we did not approve urban village. San Jose City Council did after tremendous amount of studies. We are simply following the urban village handbook, which you approve and put together as a guidance to investors and developers. I'm sure you're very familiar with the urban village plan. Every single property is color coded with a specific designation. Urban village for our property allows 6-story building. We follow that. It dictates all the setback in rear and side. We follow that. It also dictates an additional setback of 10 feet for each additional floor, which we did follow that as well. In other words, 6-story has a setback of 50 feet. We did not ask for any favoritism, exception, or variance, even though we gave up 1/3 of our property to improve the neighborhood. If the Honorable City Council turned down this project, it would scare a lot of developers and investors away. This alteration and deviation of the City Council from approved urban village plan could significantly damage the vision intent to cast a shadow on all properties and development possibilities along the urban village. No developer would be willing to take a chance and buy a property knowing that they cannot depend on the published urban village handbook, which millions of dollars were spent to create. The City Council office and I did a joint survey asking the neighbors which option do they prefer, 6-story hotel or 6-story condominium. They rejected both of these options. The neighborhood doesn't have issue with the hotel, they have an issue with urban village. In an attempt to resolve this issue, we had set up 8 meetings. When I listened to them, here are the concerns: 6-story height, rear setback, side setback, building size. These are the definition of urban village. Rejecting this project affects all districts. Investors don't know district, they know the city of San Jose. None of my investors are from the area. Some of them have never been in San Jose, but they're bringing close to $325 million in investment to the city of San Jose. They don't know which project belongs to which district. They know the projects are located in the city of San Jose. I've spoken highly about the city of San Jose, especially the potential of urban village. I urge the city council to honor their own decision, which they made about urban village a few years ago. Please support the investors and developers to turn your own vision of urban village into a reality. I sincerely thank all city staff, the city council members, Vice Mayor Jones, and especially the mayor's office for their continued support of the urban village. But by voting yes, you will be reconfirming your commitment for the urban village vision. In addition, we came up with a lot of trees on the first floor, third floor, fourth floor, fifth floor, sixth floor, and you're looking at the mountain of trees from the back of the property. I appreciate your time. Thanks, everybody.
All right, thank you, Mr. Scari. We'll now go to the public. Tony?
Paul Soto?
First of all, Paul Soto from the Horseshoe, first of all, land use issues still has not been rectified. These areas are redlined. You're selling land and you're allowing developers. This is why I don't have no respect for the law. You know why? Because anytime white affluents want to change it, they can change it. But I'll be damned if they hold the lower classes to them. Oh yeah, law and order, law and order. We're gonna hold the lower classes accountable for the law. But when it comes to you, you just change it at will. You just change it at will. And you got these two dudes, Mr. Manford. Man, I just don't like the way these moves, man. Mr. Manford and Mr. Burton. Because they are educated in euthentics, euthenics, euthentics. And both of these gentlemen know that euthenics is a precursor to eugenics. And eugenics means wiping out one race to create another that's better, that's cleaner, that's more refined.
Tessa Woodmansey?
Okay, I apologize to Eric Schoenauer. Yes, this is the project that I wanted to comment on, even though I don't like hotels in general. But this particular hotel has had many of the neighbors very concerned from the Marion, Hammond area, and they've been protesting. And even he said that they were protesting, and yet the city doesn't listen. And it's the same thing with Deb. I'm not surprised it's Deb Davis. Because it's the same problem we've had in our Garden Alameda at 615 Stockton Avenue. We do not want a hotel. We've been fighting it, and we fought it at 623. And then, it's still happening now at 615 Stockton Avenue. Another hotel is being planned, and we don't want that. But it doesn't matter. And Deb Davis, the only concession we got is if the city staff would approve a change to residential. And this project is taking residential away.
Kathy Brockdorf?
Hi, I'm the neighbor at the back of the property, and I really only recently learned about this, but I honestly have multiple concerns about the project. The first is primarily privacy concerns. This is a very large structure that is abutting a relatively small backyard, and I'm not honestly convinced that some trees at the back of a 6-story structure is going to provide adequate insurance. It's also probably going to take a good section of Winchester out during construction. This is a 2-year-long construction. That area of Winchester is 2 lanes at the moment, and that will limit us to 1 lane going northbound for about 2 years. There's also, as my neighbors have talked about, the fire concerns. There's no way to get a fire truck to the back of the hotel, and we're worried that this could be a danger to the rest of our structures. There's also not enough parking on this site, as far as we can tell. They're planning on limiting the number of cars that the employees can have, but all I can...
Sean Zachary?
Hi, my name is Sean Zachary. I'm a developer from Los Angeles. Okay. I have been following this development project for quite some time now, and I'm beyond surprised and I'm quite disappointed at what this project has come to, despite the developers having followed all rules and regulations of the entitlement process. The story sounds like a nightmare several years into the making. After having done everything by right, dedicating additional land as for the benefit of the residents of the urban village, having entitled the property, not via variance, having spent substantial amount of time and resources in doing so, to finally get rejected for reasons not consistent with the law. This will have a chilling effect on the entire development community of Urban Village, as well as the entire state. I would doubt any developer, including myself, would consider developing in the area or investing in the area. Thank you very much.
Call-in user 1.
I mean, an urban village. I mean, how stupid are these things? No, they hardly ever get built. Of course, they're controversial. They're not planned very well. And I mean, you guys violated the Brown Act. Hey, Perales, Foley, all you people who violated that, maybe you should get fined and it should hurt. Matter of fact, maybe the project should be scrapped because you people broke the law. And then you say, oh, well, we're going to admit we did it, but it's okay. Maybe you should get a fine for that, Perales. Make it hurt. How about you, Foley? You like fines. You love fines. You like to fine people for having a shed in their backyard. I say no to this project. Don't we need more water and electricity and all this? And how are you going to have a road diet, Foley? You're in charge of road diets. You know, how are you going to have a road diet on Winchester Boulevard?
7054. Please press *6 to unmute. Go ahead. You're unmuted, but I'm not hearing you.
Hi, Ron Caselli. I'm sorry about that. On the development side of the business. And, you know, we were looking at this project for doing development on Winchester Boulevard. We're trying to, you know, improve things from Hamilton Avenue up. And this hotel project is, you know, fits into the urban plan, which the city's approved, in which we all know what the rules are, and they're not easy to compete with. But there's no reason that because some neighbors complain about this, after you've zoned it and everybody's approved it, people make investments of their money to come into here, and then they're told after they're halfway through it or further, oh, we don't like this. Because some people that's on the committee, they're afraid the neighbors, you know, may not be happy. But that's how development occurs and how things move forward. People have to make choices on what they can and they can't do. And if you're following the plan, there should be no objection to letting this project go through. And the city needs also to know that the improvement of Winchester up to Santana Row and Stevens Creek Boulevard is an important part of the whole development of the city. So we were.
Mike Drabkin.
Yeah, good evening. There are multiple issues with this project once you lift the glossy covers. I'd like to focus on one of them tonight, which is the underground or basement level parking garage. So not enough parking spaces, got to have the TDM plan. One was created by Hexagon Consultants, two very specific recommended TDM measures, guest shuttle services and on-site car share program. Neither of these measures can be implemented because there's just not enough space in the garage. There are no dedicated spots, nowhere for app-based services like Uber to park, no place for guest shuttles to go in and out. It's just not doable. TDM measures aside, the garage traffic flow is already constrained by stacked parking. Takes 3 minutes to retrieve a car from a double stacked parking lot. Based on Hexagon's analysis, who created the TDM plan, 37 inbound trips need to be served during peak hours. That's one car every minute and a half.
Tom Mormon.
Hi, this is Gail Mormon here with my husband, Tom. I want to address the Honorable Mayor and City Council members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. We'd like to thank our council member, Vice Mayor Jones, for the time he spent with us over the last 2 years listening to our concerns. Regarding today's memo from Vice Mayor Jones, we're happy to see that the applicant has requested that the special use permit for the hotel be dropped from consideration. We support Vice Mayor Jones' recommendation that the developer continue to work with the community to utilize the site in a way that will better serve the surrounding neighborhood while expanding the commercial component of the corridor and accomplishing the intended goals of urban villages. As the memorandum stated, the 6-story structure with only a 20-foot setback to the single-family homes that border the site is a major concern to the community. We stand ready to meet with the developer to see what changes can be made to lessen the height and size of the structure, lessening the negative impact on the neighborhood. Thank you.
Gaz.
Hello. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I just want to ask the city council whether the node is going to be adopted and filed with the state. I'd like that question answered because this gives us the right to, fight it legally. Fight it legally because the traffic reports that were created have data that is invalid. So are the other reports. And the inclusion of the neighborhood was not done. I mean, a lot of this I have submitted in written form, so I don't want to take too much of your time, but the standard answer that was given was, it's not needed to be mitigated. Thank you. I hope you would reconsider the vote and not vote no on both counts.
Behrooz Sarudi.
Yes, good evening. I'm a real estate developer and investor. We have developed dozens of properties in California, including several in San Jose and Northern California. As I understand it, this project is in full compliance with all the guidelines of the Urban Village Plan, its height, its density, its FAR, its setbacks. If a project like this, which fully complies with all the regulations of the specific plan, is denied, we, and I assume most other investors, will not be willing to take the risk of investing in this neighborhood, or for that matter, in any part of San Jose. Real estate developers and investors need certainty in order to take the development risk and make significant investments in a city or neighborhood. I believe you should think long and hard before denying this project after having gone through the process for several years. Lastly, I want to make it clear that we are not in any way involved in the ownership of this asset, and we do not stand to gain in any way from its approval.
David Bowman.
Hi, my name is David Bowman. I'm past president of the California Lodging Industry Association. I work for New Gen Advisory. For the last 20 years, I have helped match investors with hotel projects in California and other states. It's so important for investors to have a reliable environment in which to commit funds and time to projects. The tourism industry in California employs millions of people, brings in billions of dollars in tax revenue, but it takes investment to continue that, continuous investment. So, this project is so far along. It's been approved. It's met everything that's been asked of them. And it's important that it goes forward. Otherwise, you're going to scare off investors from everywhere.
Shahana M. Shahana, I see you're unmuted, but I can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can now.
Oh, thank you. My family lives in the single family home that's next door to the proposed project. And in reading Mayor Jones's memo today, he asked the city council to support items A and B. And I just have a question about adopting the MND. Why is it being requested to be adopted when it is completely tied to the hotel project? And I would appreciate it if it's not adopted so that it is kept for when this project finally goes into some kind of a proper plan. And I would like to say also that in the Winchester Urban Village Plan, these small lots were designated as neighborhood community commercial land use. And a hotel does not.
Brian Matsumoto.
Oh, hello. I'm one of the neighbors that the backyard would face this proposed hotel. And for myself, I'm not opposed to development, but I think it's mainly that the hotel, because it's like two residential lots, and they're going to try to fit in this like big building. And then the setback is 20 feet in behind the hotel. But on the sides, like north and south, it's only like a 5.5 or 6 feet setback. So it's basically only a walkway. The parking is an issue because, you know, the underground parking and the stack parking, and we're just worried that for, you know, people check in and check out, there won't be enough time to, you know, rotate the cars in and out. And so it basically is going to create a lot more traffic than an urban village, you know, plan for pedestrian friendly. So yeah, thank you.
Sean Zachary.
I didn't have enough time to finish my statement. I just wanted to state that if you guys
Did you already speak? I mean, people could only speak one at a time. I'm sorry. I didn't realize you'd already spoken. Galina Drabkin.
Hi, we as a neighbors understand that something will be built on that lot, and we would just like to see something that would fit Winchester Urban Village Plan, which is those specific lots were designated to have a strong connection to and provide services and amenities to the community. We don't think the 6-story hotel will do that. And we know that in a recent interview, planning supervisor John Tu stated that hotel can serve visiting family, friends, and coworkers, but in multiple meetings with the developer, Mr. Ascari, he specifically reiterated that his hotel, his targeted clientele for his hotel is specifically business people. So we would like to see something that would benefit community. And in addition, this particular project will have garbage pickup on Winchester, which will be the only commercial building that we know of would allow that.
Jeff Williams. Jeff Williams.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. I have sent a letter, it should be attached to your documents, but my main concern is everybody's speaking about the developer complying with the city requirements. But if you look at his staffing and operational plan, it does not make any sense and basically has been somewhat manipulated to allow for the 49% TDM reduction to come into effect. He has not followed the recommendations of Hexagon for parking valets. He has not followed and provided shuttle service staff, and the housekeeping staff does not follow industry standards in the hotel industry, and there are not enough housekeeping staff to service 119 units. Therefore, we really believe that it will take about 17 people to service this during the day, and the TDM is 52%. Thank you.
Vince.
Hello, my name is Vince Navarra. I'm president of the Hammond Park Neighborhood Association. Thank you for this opportunity. We would like to oppose this, as I've heard from a lot of our neighbors. We're not against development or growth or investment. We want to take stock into our city, but we feel these lots are too small. It's going to impact our neighborhood in a lot of negative ways that haven't even been thought out at this point. Parking, traffic. Our neighbors are against this development, and we would like this rejected. We can redo the plan for the hotel, but the way it sits right now, it's not appropriate for our neighborhood. And I'm just voicing this for a lot of our Hammond Park neighbors. It's going to impact our neighborhood in a lot of negative ways. So thank you very much.
Gabby Mendoza.
Gabby needs to update her Zoom application in order to speak publicly.
Okay, that's interesting because Gabby spoke earlier. Aisha.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good evening, Mayor Liccardo, Vice Mayor Jones, council members. My name is Aisha Salihu. I live at 1204 South Winchester Boulevard, and there's a 6-foot setback. If this project goes through, I'd like to voice my opposition. We have met with the developer multiple times, and he said that he would not modify the project because it would reduce his profits. He spoke today about the urban village plan. He did not talk about that with us. And I want the council to know that we are for development. I grew up in this neighborhood. I've worked in the local schools. I am a teacher at San Jose Unified. I am invested in San Jose. And I ask you to be invested in as well in this city and its people, and not just developers who are looking for a payday. Thank you.
Monica?
Hi, my name is Monica Duma. My parents live across from the proposed hotel, and my sister and I grew up there. We believe in the idea of an urban village and hope to work with the city to work towards something that would benefit the community. However, we're very concerned about the proposal for the 6-story building adjacent to single-family homes for many reasons, including issues with safety, fire hazard, traffic congestion, and feel this is not appropriate for our neighborhood. Thank you.
Gabby Mendoza?
Yes, hi, how are you? Yeah, council members, I want you to please listen to the community, okay? We want housing here, okay? If we're talking about building a hotel in front of somebody's, behind somebody's house, I don't think that's appropriate. Let's start running and get those hotels that all my workers, friends, that work in the hotels in downtown San Jose, that still don't have a job because of the pandemic. Let's those hotels, let's get them running, okay, and build housing. Housing is what we need. Development is good, and I don't see nobody opposing for the development. They're opposing because they don't see that fit in the neighborhood. So listen to the community. You guys are very smart people, so do what is right by the community, and we keep on. And please, thank you.
Back to the council.
Thank you, and thanks to the members of the community who came out to speak. Tony, I see that there is one member of the community.
Their hand went up just as I said back to council.
Yeah.
ANZ Development.
Yes, good evening, everyone. I'm sorry that I didn't do it on time, but I just wanted to say that this proposed project is a beautiful building architecturally and would enhance the neighborhood. This project can have great benefit for the city by creating jobs and bringing revenue. We, as the developer of this project, believe in compromises and being good neighbors, but the project needs to still stay viable with all the limitations that the neighbors would want to apply. So some of the concerns that came up was the building would not be a match to the the landscaping. But the thing is, you got to keep in mind that all these buildings are going to be done in the future, and in the future, it would be matching the landscape of the urban village as it is proposed and it is visioned for the city.
Now back to council.
Great, thank you very much. Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. As most of you know, I've been heavily involved with the creation of urban villages. I spent multiple years and with the community, hundreds of hours working on our urban village plans. We're probably one of the most successful urban villages because we have projects moving forward. We've had several projects that the community opposed or they weren't in favor of that I supported and they moved forward. So I don't take any reservations or opposition that I have to a particular project lightly, particularly if that project conforms to the urban village plan. But there are sometimes unique situations and our urban villages aren't perfect. And through the process, once these projects move forward, you discover where there's gaps in your urban village plan. And so this is a project on a parcel that it has exposed a gap in our plan. So I just sum it up as a situation where even if you have a right to do something, doesn't mean that's the right thing to do. And this is a classic example of the type of project that maybe they have a right to do it, but it's not the right project on the right parcel that fits with the community. So I appreciate the developer withdrawing, moving the special use permit forward to move forward with the hotel. And I also look forward to working with the developer as well as the community in terms of coming up with or identifying a project that does meet the needs of the community and does meet the needs of the developer in terms of their financial model. One issue that has come up a couple of times, and Nora, I don't know if you want to tackle this or defer it to one of your staff, but there was the whole question of why we need to approve the rezoning. And can you or someone from your staff speak to the reasons why?
Thank you, Vice Mayor Jones. And I have a text, but it would be better for Vera to answer directly, and or I think Robert or someone may be ready to answer also, because we have been communicating on that. Robert, can you answer that?
Yes, I can. Again, Robert Manford, Deputy Director for Planning. The rezoning component is actually a requirement by law, SB 1333, for all cities and jurisdictions to ensure that their zoning is in conformance with the general plan designation for any particular site. And for this particular project, the proposed zoning will be in conformance with the general plan land use designation.
Great. Thank you, Robert. So that's the rationale and the reason why I'm recommending moving forward with the rezoning. So just so the community understands the process, our limitations and flexibility. So I'm going to make the motion to accept my memo, which is to accept staff recommendations A and B. A is to adopt a resolution adopting the initial study mitigation negative declaration, and B is the conforming rezoning, and to not make a determination on recommendation C has been previously stated that the applicant requested that that item be dropped.
And I'm sorry, was there a second? There was. Okay, thank you. Anything further, Vice Mayor?
That's it. Thank you.
Okay, Robert, before we go to Councilmember Davis, you had your hand up. I just want to check in.
Yes, please, Mayor. A question came up from the public regarding CEQA compliance, and that if the project would not be approved or the hotel project would not be approved, why should the MND be approved? So I just wanted to clarify that the MND was prepared for both components of the project, which are the rezoning and then the hotel components. And CEQA is a requirement prior to any discretionary action. The rezoning is a discretionary action and it cannot be decided on until CEQA compliance has been completed. So we need the CEQA compliance component to move forward with the rezoning if the council so desires.
Okay, Vice Mayor, would you like to modify your motion?
Okay, how should I modify it?
Robert, do you want to suggest some language?
Yes, I think it is your recommendation is fine. The council adopts the resolution for the MND first, and then if they want to move ahead with the rezoning, they do so. So it's in line. It's correct.
Okay, so the existing motion does not need to be amended.
No, it doesn't.
Okay, my apologies.
It works.
Okay, got everybody confused. All right, Councilmember Davis.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a question for the applicant because the Vice Mayor indicated that the applicant was requested that item C be dropped, but I didn't hear that in the presentation by the applicant. I heard that they would like to move forward with the with item C, which is to actually construct the hotel as it has been planned and as they have been planning for months. So I would like to hear from the applicant whether they are requesting that change or whether they would like to move forward with their project.
Hello, can you hear me?
Mr. Ascari?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can,
Oh,
yes.
perfect, I apologize. So what we decided was to drop it at this time, so we regroup and talk to the neighbors again, see what else can we do to bring him, do the conversation going. I asked Mr. Mayor at the beginning of my conversation, is it time to talk now? And Mr. Mayor advised me that, give your best speech about, because I didn't know what is going to be on the agenda, all 3 items or 2 items. So that's why my speech was prepared ahead of time. So at this moment, we want to drop the hotel project and go back and review it with developers again. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that clarification because I have the same concern that one of the public commenters did, which is if there's a project that conforms to the general plan and the urban village plan, I think we have an obligation. I know Vice Mayor talks about just because you can doesn't mean you should. I agree with that, but we worked and your office and my office, Vice Mayor, worked very many hours on those urban village plans to ensure that the development standards that would be used would be as palatable as possible while allowing for new, more dense development, because that is where we have those areas are where we have identified the need for more dense development. So I can support the motion because the applicant has said they're willing to go back, but I also am really hesitant about sending a message to developers that they can't trust the general plan and they can't trust our urban village plan. So I would be willing to go, I'll just put it out there. I would be willing to go forward with what is allowed because that's what we've said with, as you know, Vice Mayor, many, many hours of public comment and a previous council unanimously adopted with some changes that you and I had asked for on the urban village plan beyond the staff recommendations. So I'd like to hear from my colleagues about this, but I do have real concerns about sending a message to developers that we have a general plan and we have urban village plans, but we're not going to abide by them. Thank you.
Other comments? If not, I'll weigh in. I appreciate very much Councilmember Davis's sentiments. I'm going to support the motion because the developer has indicated their willingness to hold back and reconsider, but I would also be willing to support a motion that simply approved the project. And really for the reasons that Councilmember Davis articulated, we don't owe developers anything in this city except one thing. The only thing we owe developers in the development community is clarity. We set the rules, and we set the rules with our community. We work hard with the community. I remember when I was on the General Plan Task Force back in 2009, we had more than 4,000 people weighing in about the general plans. We spend a lot of time in the urban village plans and all these rules. We spend a lot of time working with the community, and it's our job. Once the rules are set, it seems to me, the only thing we owe the development community is clarity that if they comply with the rules, they can move forward. And if we don't think the rules are good, then we should go back and we should change the plans. And that way everybody's clear. So I appreciate very much. I know Vice Mayor Jones has got a very challenging situation where there apparently was some aspect of this that may have been overlooked with regard to adjacency to single family housing. I understand those are very challenging issues. It seems like there is an accommodation that's been worked out. I'm willing to support that. But I also support the notion of simply moving forward, because that's the point of having a plan. And that plan is grounded in work we do with the community. Other comments? Okay. There's a motion from Vice Mayor Jones. Let's vote on that motion.
Jimenez? Jimenez? Thank you. Perales?
Yes.
Cohen?
Aye.
Roscoe?
Aye.
Davis?
Yes.
Costa?
Yes.
Arenas? Arenas? Foley?
Aye.
Hand?
Aye.
Jones?
Aye.
Licardo?
Aye. All right, thank you. All right, we're going to go back now to item 3.4, which is the Charter Review Commission report and recommendations.
Just finished, believe it or not.
Okay, Mr. Ascari, could you please mute? Thank you. And Fred Ferrer has been patiently waiting, so thank you, Fred, for returning. Fred, do you want to make any further comments before we go to council discussion? Okay. I would just offer this. I know that Fred and commissioners, all the commissioners spent, I think he described it was 29 meetings, more than 100 hours. And that was just the meetings they had that did not include the public meetings. There's been a lot of work to put forward these recommendations. I think we owe it to the commission to have a study session simply on the recommendations that they put forward. I recognize that the proposal from council members Carrasco and Arenas is a very significant proposal that requires probably significant research. We probably would want to have the registrar of voters here to help us understand how it would be implemented, for example. And I suspect that would be another conversation we should have and another hearing that we would have, because those issues are significant and undoubtedly require a significant amount of community input beyond this one hearing that we have had. So I would suggest that we have a study session on the recommendations along the lines of what I think the memorandum suggests. We can break off the proposal relating to the June election and move forward with that separately, but have all the other recommendations heard in a single study session, and then have a separate study session on any other recommendations for charter changes. We do have time between now and August, of course. Okay, Councilmember Jimenez. Councilmember Jimenez.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I fell asleep. I apologize. I'm kidding.
I have that effect on people.
I'm kidding. Well, listen, I wanted to just share a few words and some thoughts on the item, and I'll be making a motion after that I hope encapsulates some of what's been expressed by, some of the memos and of course some of the community members. But I first want to thank all the members of the Charter Review Commission. Your job, it was complicated and it required much focus, I know, during the many hours of meetings. Appreciate the commitment from all of you, and please know that we value everything you brought forward to us. I also want to thank, which I think sometimes not city staff, but specifically Tony's office, I know has taken on a lot recently. So just wanted to say thank you to Tony and your team for all the support you've provided both to this commission as well as the redistricting commission, some of the other heavy things we've been doing. So I appreciate that. Also want to give a big thank you to all community members who attended today's meeting, both for and against. I think all of you know that we received some healthy amount of emails as well as from folks that were in opposition to some of what was discussed tonight, as well as some were belligerent and frankly, I think racist in nature. And I think even though that was the case, that many still attempted to share legitimate concerns, which I think is always a good thing. And obviously tonight, the focus has been mainly on a few of the items out of the many that have been brought forward for consideration. And I certainly look forward to diving deeper into the many issues that are going to be considered in the study sessions. I also think it's important to be clear that apart from moving the mayoral election, I mean, all items will be going to a study session. So sometimes I think during the course of some of these discussions, I think some of the details as to exactly what we're doing is lost. So I think it's important just to say that, you know, apart from moving the mayoral election, which I hope folks support, everything else is going to be going to a study session so we can better understand and analyze. And so for all those folks that, whether they wrote in via email or commented during this meeting, we're not passing anything tonight, if you will. But what we're doing is moving the majority of the items, and I suspect and I hope even the hotly contested item tonight regarding voting, moving that to a discussion in a study session. Also want to say that on the topic of allowing folks to vote, I think the idea is interesting and worth exploring. I do have questions I'd like answered during the course of some of the study sessions. But let me also just say that as an immigrant, and you know, for those of you that don't know, I became a citizen in 2008. I surely understand and appreciate the plight of immigrants, and I want to really thank all of immigrants in our city and society for all they do and the contributions that they make. And in my mind, immigrants, and I'm partial to Mexican immigrants, but we're often, I think, some of the hardest working people in our society. And I think that's important to recognize, at least in the eyes of many of us. My general perspective on the issue of voting is that, you know, I believe, certainly as I'm sure we all do, that voting rights should be protected and that we should do everything possible as a society and as a government to prevent any erosion of that. But in this case, I think we're exploring the expansion of voting rights, not abridging or reducing the rights of others. And to me, that's what makes this unique and different. And that's why I'm supportive of studying this issue before we consider bringing it before the voters. And so with that being said, what I'll do is I'll move even though it's not the memorandum I signed on to, but I think it captures obviously much of what I think we've heard and what I think is the best course forward. Is I would say I want to move forward a motion to approve the memo written by Councilmember Arenas and Carrasco, except taking out item 2B, which is part of moving the even numbered districts and odd numbered districts into different election cycles. I'm not supportive of that. So the memo does not include that. It does include number 3. And in addition to that, what I would say is for us to direct the city administration or staff to schedule one additional study session. So there's going to be 2, one for all the items mentioned in the Charter Review Commission work plan or work and report, and then a separate study session solely for the issue of allowing folks to vote in our city. And so with that being said, that would be the motion.
I'm going to second for the purposes of discussion. I'm not entirely in agreement with the 2B exception, but I'm going to second it. I may make a friendly amendment.
Yeah, thank you. So I appreciate that. And let me just say before I hand the reins over to the next speaker, the reason that I'm not supportive of 2B, and you know, I think in my mind, the commission report captured it quite well. And I'll read what it says. It says, the commission finds that the transitioning of even and odd numbered districts to the alternative election cycle would knowingly decrease turnout in some districts while increasing it in others. The commission could not discern any clear benefit to the city as a whole and decided not to make a recommendation that will alter the timing of city and county elections, council elections. And so that was one of the reasons I thought it was important. It's just that I am having trouble discerning any clear benefit, as they state there. And so that's one of the reasons. So, but thank you for the second. I appreciate it and look forward to the conversation.
Thank you. Councilmember Carrasco.
Thank you, Mayor. and thank you, Sergio, thank you, Councilmember Jimenez for that motion. And I want to also thank the commissioners, and of course, the chair, Fred Ferrer. I know that this was a long process, and the work was not easy work. And I really appreciate the time and effort. And I know that the folks that were there present were very passionate and very dedicated to the work that was being done. This is, of course, besides the census and the redistricting, of course, examining the charter and thinking about how we're going to govern over the next number of years is just as important. And so I really appreciate truly the energy that went into this. Thank you so much also for sticking it out with us, Fred. We really appreciate your presence. But I also want to thank all of the folks that came out and over the last several hours were very articulate in why expanding voter inclusion and engaging in our democratic process is so important to them. And so just a couple of things, and I'm not gonna, I'm hoping that the translator is still here. I don't know if the translator is still here or not, Mayor. But Tony, is the translator still here?
Yes, it's a different set of translators.
Yeah, thank you so much. So let me just say, I just want to say just a few words because I'm not going to get into Spanish and everything, pero les quiero dar las gracias a todos los que han estado participando el día de hoy. Muchísimas gracias por sus comentarios y por su participación. Reconocemos que su participación es crítico, sumamente importante, especialmente para hablar sobre el tema de hoy. Y por todo lo que han hecho, no nomás el día de hoy, sino que a lo largo y ancho de la historia de la ciudad de San José. Yo personalmente, como hija de inmigrante, reconozco las contribuciones que hacen y los sacrificios que han hecho desde el momento que hicieron la decisión de dejar su país de origen y todo lo que conocen o que conocían simplemente para buscar una vida y un futuro para sus familias. Se los agradezco realmente de todo corazón. So just a couple of things. As Councilmember Jimenez mentioned, all our emails, our inboxes have been flooded with a lot of different emails. And as we go into the study session, I do hope that we keep an open mind and we don't go with any sort of prejudgments about what this means. There was it was very disappointing for me to read some of those emails. I know what some of the concerns are, and I know where I understand. I think I understand where the root of some of those concerns are, but the country is changing. And we're in a constant state of evolution, and it's most definitely true today, and I think that it has been definitely pushed forward because of the pandemic. We've known a lot of the things that we continue to speak about. It feels almost rhetorical at this point. To constantly keep bringing it up, that we're grateful to our essential workers, that we understand the roots of racism now, that we understand that we've made, or that the previous administrations before us have made some erroneous decisions, that we now are trying to right some wrongs that have been made, that have been perpetrated upon our communities. But if we don't enact changes, or we don't enact policies that truly address those issues, it doesn't matter what we say. Talk is talk and talk is cheap. And thanking our essential workers for risking their lives, or for allowing us to keep our lights on, or for allowing us to shelter in place while people were risking their own lives and continued to work and allowing us to put food on our table, it is meaningless if we don't give them the rights that I believe they deserve, in order to enact change in their own lives and to be those architects of their own destiny. And what better way than to engage in a democratic process and to be able to, at the very least, be able to elect individuals who will either represent them or make decisions for them, or be able to decide how to invest the hard-earned money that they are contributing to our local economy. And in the memo that Councilmember Arenas and I co-authored, it defines truly the contributions, the financial contributions that our immigrant communities contribute every single year. This is every single year that they contribute to our local economy, our state economy, and our federal economy. And they do this because they work, they contribute, they pay their taxes, they purchase, they contribute again. They're part of the local economy. And yet they have no say-so in who represents them, who makes decisions for their children, who makes decisions in terms of the measures that are passed and how the funds are being spent. But I want to draw your attention to, I think, one issue that was of particular interest to me. And this is of our undocumented community. In Santa Clara County, because some of the information is a little bit difficult to disaggregate, but in Santa Clara County, there's approximately 366,567 individuals that are non-US citizens. And these are individuals who are undocumented and who are also afforded some sort of legal protection. Of those, 208,691 are non-US citizens, but they have some sort of legal protection like TPS, DACA, or legal permanent residency. In other words, your green card. But there are also, I believe, 157,000 approximate undocumented individuals in Santa Clara County. And of those, approximately 3,000 individuals are from Korea, 7,000 individuals are from Vietnam, 23,000 individuals are from India, and 69,000 approximately are from Mexico or Central America. This is not just a Latino issue. It's an issue that is an international issue that impacts all of our communities. These are folks that come from all walks of life and from all parts of the globe. And so this should be an issue that all of us, every single one of us that are sitting here, should be very concerned about because it impacts all of our districts. And the last thing I want to just say is there's emails and on my Facebook and on my different social media platform, comments that I find to be very offensive and very racist of individuals who, I don't know if they're from San Jose or they're just hopping on and they're trolling my social media accounts, who claim that these individuals should have nothing to say in the politics or the destiny or the growth of the city of San Jose. Because who are they anyway? They're foreigners. They don't know anything about San Jose. They haven't lived here long enough. And what I have to say about that is this. I'm the daughter of immigrant parents. I was born and raised here at O'Connor Hospital. I was born in O'Connor Hospital. My parents lived here most of their lives. My mother got here when she was 17. She died, as you all know, at the age of 90. She was here 73 years, my mother. She became a US citizen. But it was at a time when it was very easy to become a US citizen, incredibly easy. My father died at the age of 93. And he became a US citizen after he developed Alzheimer's, by the way. He was still able to retain some information, enough that he could take the test. But I bring that up because many of our folks who want to be US citizens have been here for decades, waiting to become US citizens. They're not here 5, 6 years. They're not here a few months trying to become US citizens. They're here 20 years trying to become US citizens. And they've not been able to. The immigration system is broken. It's a broken system. And unless you've had a relative that has gone through the system, you may be completely unaware of what it really means to get in line. There is no line. There's no such thing as a line. There's no line to get into. If there were, people would get in line. That would be so much easier, but there is no line. And so people just wait and they wait and they wait and they keep paying for their application process, and then they have to renew it again, and then they have to renew it again to try and get in that phantom line that the feds, our own Congress, has not been able to get their act together. And so that's why cities across the country, 15 to be exact, have had to enact local policies, local legislation to try and figure this out to protect their own residents. New York just passed it and added 900,000 new voters to the rolls so that they can engage in the process. It's a wonderful thing. It's a fantastic thing to allow our residents to have a say-so in their democratic process. And the last thing I'll say, and allow the next person to speak, some of these folks have been here longer than some of our own council members. They know San Jose better than some of our own council members and their staff, because we're an inclusive city and we've welcomed some transplants. Johnny Camus came in through a refugee program. Landiep, Tam Nguyen, they were all part of a refugee program, and we welcomed them. And they went on to get elected by their voters, and they served the city of San Jose. And I know that some council members currently were not born in San Jose. They're transplants from other parts of the country. And so we welcome you. I, as a native of San Jose, born and raised here. And so as we go into this study session, I hope that we go in with an open mind, recognizing that some people have been here longer than you, know San Jose better than you, have contributed just as much as you, if not more, and deserve to have a voice in their future and how you spend their money. And so with that, thank you so much. I really appreciate this. And thank you, Councilmember Jimenez. I'm not going to fight you on 2B. Thank you for reminding me on that one item that was written into the report. I think that there would be a greater turnout in those odd districts, because 3, 5, and 7 have among the poorest communities, and it'd be great to have a greater turnout. But I'm not going to fight you on that, because I think we have a great win by having the expansion of our voters, at least to have a study session and then be able to decide this once we have all the information at our fingertips.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Davis.
Mayor. First of all, I want to thank all the commissioners and Fred in particular for all of the many hours that you spent both inside and outside of the meetings, and all of the work that you put in. Even just the writing of the report, it was, I know you had staff support, but there are clearly very well thought out arguments, and they're based on the presentations that you had. And I know there were many in your meetings. So I very much thank you all for all the work that you put in. I do want to say, I know I'm already on record on this, but it was a couple of years ago. I think we had this discussion in the summer of 2020 about moving the mayoral elections. I'm not in favor of moving them. I think we frankly, now that we have ballots being sent to everybody for every election, I really hope and expect that we will have improved turnout on the gubernatorial years as well as the presidential election years. But I am also concerned for the continued turnout for all of those, well, I guess we consider them off-year elections. But as someone who was being elected during 2016 and 2020, when they were presidential election years that were very hotly contested, I would say, although that's not true in our county, but it was definitely the elephant in the room. It was the conversation that everybody wanted to know about, and I really don't know how the discussion about who I support for president actually gives anyone any information about how I would how I run my council office, how I vote on council issues and city issues. I just don't think that's a good shorthand, and I really would prefer our mayoral elections to happen on these years where we can focus on the real issues here in our city. And as a current mayoral candidate, I can tell you nobody has asked me who I supported in the 2020 election. They all want to know what I'm going to do about homelessness. And I would say that's a really fair question for any mayoral candidate. So I'm not interested in moving the elections, and I really hope that I really hope that our citizens aren't either interested in moving them, because I think it's important for us to have these local discussions without the background noise of what's going on in the federal government, some of which is very irrelevant to our daily lives, and some of which, as Councilmember Carrasco talked about with immigration, is very relevant to daily lives. Discussion about the voting for non-citizens. I think it is important for us to do everything that we can to ensure that everyone who is eligible to vote now is registered to vote and has access and is able to vote and does vote. I don't think expanding it at this time makes sense. I have a lot of concerns about that. I consider voting to be both a right and a responsibility for citizens. There are a big group of non-citizens, as Councilmember Carrasco went through the number of non-citizens that we have, but there are different categories of non-citizens. So there are not just people who have been here for a really long time. There are people here living here on tourist visas. There are people who have overstayed their tourist visas. There are people here who are on temporary protected status and may only be here temporarily before they settle somewhere else in the country. There are people here on student visas. There are people here with H-1B work visas and their spouses. And then there are people here who are undocumented and who are here for short term versus the long term. I just think every single one of those groups every single one of those people is a citizen of another country. They have allegiance to another country. They hopefully, wherever they come from, have the right to vote in that country. I just don't think that giving them the right to vote here is the fair or correct thing to do. And as we had a couple of people pointed out, these are a group of folks who may or may not be familiar with the laws and processes here in our country and in our city in particular. And that is all not to mention the administrative burden and the cost. And the question, I think, is outstanding about whether we would have to pay if we would have to pay for separate ballots or have a whole separate process that would be administered by the city clerk as opposed to the county registrar because of different requirements. And so I'm concerned about the cost and about the potential for getting it wrong. So I just have a lot of concerns. At the same time, I can completely understand the, it's a very American sentiment to say no taxation without representation, but everyone who pays taxes gets services for those taxes, and that those services are available to you regardless of your citizenship status. You can use our parks, you can use our libraries, you can call the police department or the fire department when you need that protection. And those services are what cost money and why we all pay taxes, whether we vote in the place where we pay those taxes or not. And I also very much agree we need to expand citizenship, and that's not something that this city council has in its purview, obviously. And that I understand also that it is not easy to become a citizen for some members of the non-citizen groups that I listed out. That is a federal government power, and that is a federal government failing. I completely agree. And that we continue to advocate for in our legislative process. So I'm not interested in having a study session for that. I am interested in having a study session for the items that the commission did request. There are many of them, and I'm happy to vote for that study session, but if there is one motion with all of these things, I don't think I can support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Reyes?
Thank you. So I also had the benefit of having a presidential year when I first was elected and of course re-elected, which allows for a really broad discussion of many of the issues that bring us all together as a nation, but a lot of local issues that really impact us. And I remember I have a neighbor. He has a particular car that I see is an older neighbor of mine. And he's a Vietnam War veteran, and he's very angry. He's an older Latino man. And he said to me, you know, he wanted to know who I was going to vote for in a presidential year. And he said to me, I didn't go to Vietnam and fight this war so that you could choose a hippie like Bernie and blah, you know. You can probably finish that statement yourselves in your minds. And, you know, I was very respectful, and I said, thank you for serving our country. And I really moved on. I didn't share who I was voting for. Or at that point, I think I had voted for, because I think it was a general. Anyways, what I really wanted to say to him was, actually, you did. You went to war so that I could have that option, and so that I could have that freedom to vote for whoever it was that I wanted to vote for. It's part of being part of this wonderful country. And we have also freedom as states to decide whether felons deserve to vote or not. California thinks that they're so progressive, but East Coast has to beat us on that because we don't allow for voting rights for our felons. We're more progressive than Barnesville, that has allowed non-citizens to vote since 1918. I kind of I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed because we have a clear California home rule law that allows for cities that have adopted charters, and those become the supreme law. And so I want to read what one court had and explained it as a charter city's authority over municipal affairs is all embracing, free from any interference by the state through general laws. Where a city has adopted a charter, it has full control over municipal affairs, whether or not its charter specifically provides for that particular right sought to be exercised. And so this is something that is well within our right to do. It's only controversial because people are making it so. I'm not sure why we wouldn't be concerned about including probably one of the largest immigrant communities that contribute so much to the state of California overall into the decisions that we make here locally. We're not asking them to make a decision about presidents. We're asking them to decide, where would you like to spend most of your money? Would you like to spend it on picking up litter? Would you like to spend it on children and families? Where are your values? Tell us about your values. You contribute to our society, and so you deserve that right. And one of the callers that we had, and by the way, thank you so much to all the callers, even those whose comments I didn't agree with. It allowed for me to think about where I stood, where I continue to stand in my position. Obviously, I think everybody already knows we have this memo that we had already co-authored, and I want to thank Councilmember Carrasco for your leadership in this. Not everybody has the courage to do this, to take this step forward, because it's so controversial. And I want to strip it from its controversy, because it really is not. It's within our right. And as a municipality, we don't even have to bother Nora about this, because we already know where we stand with our rights here. It's well within the rights of a charter city to be able to do this. And so now I love that we're going to move on to the next step, and that we're going to study this. And I would love to continue to study this and figure out how we can make this happen for all the immigrants that we all say that we're so pro-immigration, that we love this. Somebody said it was a melting pot. I don't necessarily like that example. We're not a melting pot. We're a lot of different groups from different parts of the world living together, and we're all Americans. And I've got to say that some of the reasons that I've already heard from my colleagues in terms of why they think that this should not happen is well, you know what? I'll stop there in terms of qualifying other people's positions. But I think as representatives of people in our community, we have to make sure that we're representing everyone in our community. And in California and in the city of San Jose, that means everyone, including those who are not here legally. Those who are waiting for their citizenship status to come through the mail. Councilmember Carrasco said, you know, there isn't a line for that. It can take from 2 years to 33 years. You just never know how long it's going to be. Is that really fair for us to have these folks waiting? And I wanted to remind folks that you know, a lot of a lot of the folks who we've asked to be part of our society, with the 1965 Immigration Act, that prioritized educated and skilled workers, doctors, engineers, folks of that sort. And we didn't ask any questions about all the investment that their originating countries made in their education, in their upbringing, in their resources. We said, hey, come over here to the US, because we're going to benefit from all of the investment that your country made in you. We will be making money off of you. And we've never once said, hey, you know what? India, you produce so many engineers, and thank you for all of that. And here is this much so that we can continue to receive that benefit from you. I don't know that that's part of any of our arguments here. But yet we benefit from that. We benefit from cheap labor. That's why we're, I don't know, Councilmember Carrasco, correct me if I'm wrong, 6th largest economy in the world.
5th.
5th, there we go. Thank you. Councilmember Esparza, we're always up there, 5, 6, 7. It's not because, well, one, we just have that kind of competition here in Silicon Valley, but it's also because we pay cheap, dirt cheap salaries to those folks who are in the lowest rung of the ladder. And those are the folks who pay the price with their health, pay their price with their living arrangements, because they have to pile in 2, 3, 4 families in one household. And we all feel very comfortable turning a blind eye to those folks, because what are we going to do? We can't build fast enough. And we'll continue to benefit from their unskilled work so that we can continue to eat and we can continue to have food delivered to us while we remained safe. So one of the things that I just wanted to point out, lastly, one of the things that I just wanted to point out, and something that really was very hurtful, and I have to say that as a person of color, and I see those folks who fought in the civil rights war, call it a war, because many people were hurt and many people lost their lives because of this. And many people had to have the courage to stand up for themselves and have not only for, in order for me to have this opportunity to serve you and to represent my district, those who stood up for educational rights, for civil rights, all of those folks, we have a debt to pay to them, and we have to nod in their direction. And I can't forget that there was many Chicanos who served us, many folks that we created alliances with, a lot of Asian American communities. And one of the reasons why we have the word Asian Americans is because of that political alliance and awareness that we wanted to create within the educational system. Chicano is a construct of political reasons. There's no such thing as a Chicano. It's not a Mexican term. And before we had Asian Americans, people used to call anybody who was Asian American Orientals. And so we had to continue to educate people and build political power through alliances and identity. And it really is hurtful when folks think that there isn't any oppression and have a denial of the oppression and the wars that have been waged against people of color, all people of color, throughout all of the wars, whether it's in this country or in other countries, where there's geopolitical conflicts, and the US had to, in the name of freedom and against communism, had to be involved. And so I just wanted to say that we recognize all of those folks who've come before us, who've come before me, and that discrimination was real, that oppression was real, that the violence and the lynchings were real, and that we have we've come a long way, and we need to make sure that we push our colleagues in the right direction and continue to challenge them to include folks who you normally would think are not supposed to be part of decision making. And here's where I ask all of you as my colleagues, I challenge you to encourage, to
have the courage to allow for this participation. This is going to, the participation is already happening. You heard it tonight. You saw it tonight. You saw the number of people who called. It's just a matter of really formalizing that and acknowledging these folks who have been working really hard and who want to be part of our society. And so thank you, Councilmember Carrasco, once again for your leadership. And I hope that the rest of my council colleagues can have the courage to recognize the rest of the immigrants, as you are all immigrants, unless you're a Native American. I consider all of you, including myself, an immigrant. Not an immigrant of this continent, but definitely all of you are immigrants. The lighter skin that you are, the more immigrant that you are from this continent. And so, so I'm just hoping to prompt you to have the courage to support the motion on the floor. Thanks.
Thank you. I know we have a few more my colleagues would like to speak. I just want to encourage everybody to consider, we have several more items to consider after this. And this, of course, is just a vote to move to a study session where I think we're going to have much more extensive discussion, debate, including more public testimony. Councilmember Esparza?
Thank you, Mayor. There we go. I think it's working. All right. Thank you. I'll be brief. I think we've been down this road quite a bit. First, I'd really like to thank and am incredibly grateful to Fred Ferrer for the tremendous leadership that he's shown in this process. I think this city owes him, we owe him a debt of gratitude, or at least a bottle of wine after this. And I particularly would like to thank my District 7 commissioners, Rick Callender and George Sanchez, in addition to all the commissioners that devoted a tremendous amount of their time to show their dedication to the city that they love. They stepped up to this. And so I really wanted to thank them. This has been a long time in coming. And I'd also would really like to thank the mayor, Vice Mayor Jones, and council members Foley, Jimenez and Cohen, and Arenas and Carrasco for moving us forward so that we can have a path after the past year and a half that we've been through as a city, and to really find a path moving forward so that we can do our due diligence. I just wanted to say a couple of things. First, I'd also like to thank the folks that have come and spoken. And actually everybody that has shared their thoughts about this. I do want to actually put out there that we've also received some appalling emails that this has brought out the worst in some people. So we've heard wonderful things and seen tremendous dedication to our city, but we've also seen particularly the proposal around voting rights bring out the worst in folks, and things that people remarkably felt free to put in writing and attach their names to, but I noticed they weren't on this meeting tonight saying those words out loud. And so I wanted to say a couple of things for that. One is voting rights are under assault in our country right now for a reason. They're under assault to suppress votes. As part of that, some states have actually moved to ban non-citizen voting. And so this is the context that we're debating this. We're debating this, and people are stepping up as part of a national strategy. And states that have moved to ban non-citizen voting are Alabama, North Dakota, Arizona, Colorado, and Florida. And I wouldn't call those states examples that we should be striving to match. And so we should be mindful of our rhetoric moving forward and really take an open look. I'm willing to take an open look, and I hope that my colleagues are willing to do the same, and really have an open mind about voting rights for everyone. And again, in that national context around a national suppression of voting rights. I won't rehash the debates that are happening right now in Washington, D.C. But again, we're a microcosm of these national debates, and it's up to us to really be mindful of which side of history we want to be standing on. A couple of comments about the mayoral election. I know we have 2 new council members, but most of us do remember we remember debates, and we remember folks coming before us, and San Jose State has come before us, and there's extensive research that was presented to us that our current system was designed to suppress votes. And it was designed to suppress certain types of votes and to enable other votes. And I actually don't have a problem sharing my values. I think we all share our values all the time. I have seen all of my colleagues out in the community at some point or another, and a resident comes up to us and they start saying, where do you stand on this? And where do you stand on that? And you know what? That's what we sign up for. And it's really communicating our values, right? Our residents deserve to know what our values are. And that's not a bad thing. It is a good thing. They should know what they're getting, and we should be held accountable to those values. And so if it's a presidential election year and Donald Trump is running against Hillary Clinton, and somebody asks us that question, then why is that something we should be embarrassed about? I think if this were 2016 and a voter was asking us that out in the community, that we should be able to answer that without shame and walk our walk. And lastly, you know, we've talked a lot, particularly during COVID, about who has been hit hardest during the pandemic. If you eat, thank an immigrant. If you've been able to work at home, thank an immigrant. If you've been able to order things on Amazon and have them shipped to you, thank an immigrant. If you or a loved one have had to go to a hospital, I have had to do that during COVID, take loved ones and who have had to be hospitalized during COVID, not with COVID, thankfully, but guess what? Thank an immigrant. Thank an immigrant for providing that health care to you and your loved ones. Immigrants can fight for our country. They can take an oath to our Constitution. They can die for our country. And so why not be open to the idea? We should study it. We should move forward. And I hope my colleagues will support this motion on the floor as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Cohen?
Thank you. Try to be brief. I know it's getting late. I want to start by first thanking the Charter Review Commission Chair Fred Ferrer. The commission did amazing work, and when you read the report and look at all the thoughtfulness that went into everything that your commission did, you see how impressive the work was, how really invested in it everyone became, how seriously everyone took the charge of working on these issues. And I want to thank them, particularly thank the Charter Commission members who communicated with me regularly during the process so that I knew what was going on and was able to be aware of the issues as it was happening. So we weren't caught by surprise, so that we had a thorough vetting of these issues. And so I want to thank you, thank the staff, thank the members from District 4, Lon Diep and Hui Tran, who did a great job. And you know, Hui was in contact with me regularly and made sure that he understood how to be effective in that role. So anyway, thank you for that. You know, there's been, setting aside that for now and talking about the voting issue, there's certainly been an evolving belief over the years that all residents should weigh in on local elections. And, you know, there's been so much misinformation out there today on this topic. People talking about our country and people trying to influence our nation. And what we're talking about here is allowing people to vote in local municipal elections. Although I'd like to see the conversation also include kind of a holistic view of local elections that includes school boards and other bodies, because obviously the things that are happening in those bodies affect all the residents as much as what we do here in the city. But, you know, obviously we only can control our own city municipal elections. Obviously there's been, I can tell from the pointed comments today, there's some preconceived notion about my view about immigrants, and you know, it's unfortunate that that's the case, but you know, I think it's really important that we find ways to engage immigrants in the process and potentially open up voting rights. We have a lot to learn from a study session, and my concern today was more about making sure we didn't do short change and on the recommendations of the Charter Commission, because as we saw in the presentation, there are, I don't know how many it was, well over a dozen recommendations that came out of the Charter Commission. And if we took our 3-hour study session and spent a long time on this particular topic, we wouldn't be able to really vet those other issues. So I'm glad that over the course of the day, we came to this idea that we would separate these two into 2 separate study sessions. Certainly the idea of expanding voting opportunities in the city is something that we should at least pursue and find out whether it's something that's viable for our residents. Just also point out, when we talk about immigrants, District 4, and we did the analysis yesterday. District 4 that I represent actually has a higher, I believe, has the highest non-citizen residency in the entire city. So it does matter a lot to the residents in my district. The zip code 95134 in North San Jose has over 40% of its residents that are not citizens. Many of them are here working are high-tech companies, but they also provide all kinds, they're also working in all kinds of fields, as we pointed out before. They're working in our hospitals, they're working in our schools, they're working in the fields, they're working in a lot of places. And it's really important that we give them an opportunity to be as engaged as possible in our political process. I also want to point out that, you know, there's been this talk about people just moving here and not knowing, but anybody can come here from another state or from another region of California and vote within 30 days without having any history or knowledge of what's happening in San Jose. So we should dispel that right away as an issue in this topic. Also, it's important to note that we shouldn't completely conflate non-citizens with undocumented or people who are here. Some people, unfortunately, are using the word illegal, but people who are not documented. More than 2/3 of our non-citizens are legal residents who have been here, working here, are here on various types of visa. There's obviously also undocumented residents who have been here a long time who deserve a say in our process. So just wanted to make those comments on that topic. Moving the mayoral election is an important step in improving voter turnout. As I said in my campaign before I was on council, it was an important thing to me, and I'm glad that we've gotten here. I want to point out that we've gotten to the point at which there's now a bit more consensus in our city about the importance of moving this election, and that's because of the process it went through. It's because it went through the Charter Commission discussion, because it was vetted, and that's what I want to make sure we have the opportunity to do appropriately with any other topics that didn't go through the Charter Commission process, because there's a lot of information the Charter Commission got on all of these topics that helps the community better understand why things are important. I also want to just say, while we obviously know that turnout is higher in presidential elections, I don't like the idea that we should claim that there's nothing else happening in the other off-cycle election. We know there's really important things happening. So while we know turnout's never going to be the same, I think we ought to make sure people understand the importance of voting in election years like this year, because who is the governor of California and who hold those statutory positions in California has a huge effect on our lives and the lives of everybody in California. And so we should be encouraging people to vote in both election cycles as much as possible. While we know the truth of the matter, I hope that we'll get to that point at which people consider the governorship. We know from what's happening around the country on voting rights and other things that having a governor who doesn't believe in the values that I think we stand for in San Jose can make a huge difference. And we're lucky that we've been electing governors in California who do have the same values, but that's not a guarantee. So we have to make sure we have the turnout in our gubernatorial elections as well. So I'll leave it at that. I'm glad we're at this point where we can give both of these topics a proper hearing and first come to discussing all of the great recommendations, or at least the great work that the Charter Commission did. And I look forward to having those meetings in the next few months.
Thank you, Councilmember Perales.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mayor. And thank you to all of our public commenters as well who participated today. And as was stated by many, to the Charter Review Commission, the chair, Fred, who participated with us today as well, for their many hours of work. This was something that I advocated for a couple of years ago, and am happy to see this work coming to a set of recommendations that we can now ultimately decide to move forward to a ballot. And I look forward to those continued discussions with the council as we vet out many of these recommendations in a study session as is recommended today. And then I want to thank my colleagues for the memos, both of them for today, and then the motion that we have on the floor. And in regards to that motion, I do have a few comments. First off, I too will say I was concerned about the impact to the odd-numbered council districts in moving the mayor's election cycle. And I was curious how the Charter Review Commission was going to vet that out, and I was interested in their discussion on that. And ultimately, as they came to a conclusion in the report, and as Council Member Jimenez pointed out, recommending that we don't necessarily switch or flop the odd and even numbered council districts to the lack of the benefit there that may be seen, and really the complications that would bring about. But I do still think that there is a reality behind the potential lower turnout for those odd numbered council districts. And so just with that in mind, I do want to make sure that it is something that is of importance to this entire council, that as we move forward, and the hopes say that this is brought forward to the voters and the voters do approve it, that we then ensure that we are consciously focused on voter engagement, excuse me, during the election cycle for all the odd numbered elections. And I know that we've had those discussions in the past, but I just want to make sure that that's something that is stated here, and ultimately that we continue on, and councils hopefully in the future will continue as a city to try and ensure that we can engage our voting public now that we may be losing the draw of a mayor's race in those odd numbered elections. And then lastly, the hotter topic for the day in regards to expanding voter privileges to our undocumented residents in the city of San Jose. First off, I want to say that I wholeheartedly support that request, and I thank Councilmember Carrasco and Councilmember Arenas for bringing it forward. I will note that the short time frame for public participation on this recommendation has factored, and or likely has factored into some of the, I'll say, passionate opinions that we have heard. And because of that, I do look forward to the study session itself, but also the time between now and the study session that will allow for more of an opportunity to help engage and ultimately educate our community on this expansion of voter participation. Because based on some of the comments tonight, and actually more so based on many of the emails that I received, there does seem to be a lack of understanding of the history of voting rights altogether in our country. We have had all different levels of legal participation, especially when it comes to the status of someone's citizenship. And as we know, a myriad of other issues and participation levels for individuals, whether it was women, women's right to vote, those that had criminal histories or convicted felons, issues that we still are faced with today. And unfortunately, as we're seeing across the country, continual attack on the voting privileges and who has the privilege of voting in this country. So it has literally been all over the place. But the unfortunate reality is that traditionally it is something that is taken away from others or diminished from others and used as a tool, as was through the years, specifically to benefit a minority few. And I think the expansion and additional participation of voting rights, especially here at a local level, is something that, again, not only am I interested in helping to educate our community on, but then hopefully being able to convince them, and if this is something that makes it to a ballot, to be able to convince and help our voters understand the importance of why we would want to expand the voting participation to go back to what it was actually at points in times in our history, our country's history, to those that are undocumented. This is not unprecedented. It is extremely important to me, and I have seen throughout my terms now on the council, the participation level, the civic participation from our undocumented community members, many of whom have been presidents of neighborhood associations in neighborhoods throughout the district that I represent. Many of them who have been engaged parents, engaged community members on the plethora of projects and concerns and challenges that we deal with here, engaging with me in my office on a consistent basis and engaging with their community to better their community. Not to mention the things that we've heard, but that we know are true on paying taxes, being hardworking, contributing participants in our society, but yet still not necessarily having their actual vote and voice in our local elections. And I look forward to that discussion and hopefully, again, the education of many more in our community to be able to understand it at a level that then they'll be willing to support it. And I hope that that starts with my colleagues on the council today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Foley.
Thank you. I really just want to take a minute to thank the Charter Commission for all the hours of thoughtfulness that you spent into taking a look at the various items that you did. Fred, thank you for devoting so many hundreds of hours. And I want to thank personally my two commissioners, Linda Lazat and Garrick Percival, for their involvement on the commission, and additionally for their briefing with me yesterday over some of the thinking of the commission as they went through the various processes. I've changed my opinion, obviously, by the memo about moving the mayor's race from the gubernatorial race to the presidential year, and determine through the memo and after some soul searching that that was a good thing to do. I don't necessarily agree with moving the swapping odd number and even number. I think there's a lot of problems with that, but I do agree with moving the mayor's race to the 2022 or 2024 with the presidential year. And I think that's a good thing. Some of the other things that I was really happy to see come out was the police oversight recommendations. We haven't talked about that at all, but I think that's really important. Some of the recommendations that you've made there regarding the commissions, the gender inclusive language, and all the other issues that you took a look at. I'm very grateful and appreciative for the in-depth analysis. I know your commission spent so many hours working on them that I just wanted to take a moment to thank you and share my gratitude publicly. And to those who wrote to us and called in today, I really appreciate your perspective and point of view. And I will take that into consideration as I make my vote and after the vice mayor and council member Mahan speak. With that, I'm finished, and thank you, Fred, so much for your time.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Thank you. And I also want to thank the Charter Review Commission and Fred and my representatives, Jenny Zhao and Samuel Robledo, for their hard work. And, it's actually ironic. Councilmember Foley brought up several items and recommendations that, we haven't discussed or been brought up tonight. So it just really kind of brings it home that, it was a pretty comprehensive document. And I know it took hundreds of hours and a lot of hard work. And so I just want to acknowledge that. I'm obviously on the memo to support changing the mayoral cycle. And that's been debated and discussed, for I don't know how long. And I'm glad that, or hopefully we'll be able to move forward with that. I have some issues with expanding voter eligibility. And I just want to frame it that part of my basic philosophy is that there's a linkage between citizenship and the right to vote. That's part of my core philosophy. And so it's difficult for me to even, comprehend a process of allowing non-citizens to vote in elections. I think Councilmember Carrasco and Arenas and Esparza, you guys made some very compelling arguments, and I think you did an outstanding job of framing your case. But outside of voting, our residents who are non-citizens still have an opportunity to petition the government. They still have an opportunity to communicate with their council members. They still have an opportunity to communicate with and request services from various city departments, whether it's the libraries, whether it's police, whether it's fire. Councilmember Perales has already mentioned that we have numerous members of our community who are undocumented that are civically engaged and speaking out on behalf of their neighborhoods and communities. I really can't tell you how many of my residents are documented or not, because I don't even ask the question. It doesn't even come up. There are residents, there are citizens, and we're charged with responding to their needs. So our residents who are undocumented, who are non-citizens, have the opportunity to request services, demand services, and demand that our city meet their needs. The only thing that we're not allowing them to do is vote. And again, it goes back to, my basic core principle that voting is a privilege that you get when you become a citizen. So I can't support moving forward with a study session. So I'd like to make a request to Councilmember Jimenez, if we could just bifurcate that one piece from your motion and vote on it separately. So I'd like to make that friendly amendment.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's fine. I'm good with that.
Okay, thank you.
And the seconder I know is Councilmember Carrasco. Maybe she wants to say something, but.
Hi, I'm so disappointed in this. I just have to say, I have to voice it. You heard all the folks that came and pleaded, and this is just a study session. You can vote no on it afterwards. So I'm not going to bifurcate it.
Okay.
All right, so the motion is not bifurcated. Anything further, Vice Mayor?
No, that's it.
All right, Councilmember Mahan.
Thank you, Mayor, and appreciate all my colleagues' comments. I'll be very brief. I want to add my thanks to the Charter Review Commission and just thank all of the commissioners, and especially our chair and our District 10 commissioners, Tobin Gilman and Frank Matsky, for the real thoughtful analysis that you all went through for many, many months, and appreciated following your work. And I'm looking forward to our study session. I did have a question that I apologize if this was answered and I missed it, but why was the topic of non-citizen voting in municipal elections not considered by the commission? And I don't know if I should direct that to Fred or if someone else would be more appropriate. I apologize.
Hi, this is Tony Tabor, City Clerk. The commission, it was not one of the 5 topics, and I just don't think they thought of it. They never,
Okay.
I never heard them say, oh, what about this topic? No, we don't want to talk about it. I just think it's not something they thought about.
Okay, my understanding was that final bucket was a little more of a catch-all, so I was surprised that it didn't. It
Yeah,
didn't
it
come
was.
up.
There was certainly substantial scope in terms of the approach of the commission. So perhaps that'd be a better question for individual commissioners.
Yeah, Fred, just curious if you don't mind commenting. I just, and let me just say, the reason I asked this is it's a really, it is a complex question. I'm much of what the vice mayor said resonates with me and how I've thought about citizenship. And yet, you know, there's nothing more American than wanting to have a say in how your tax dollars are spent and the decisions that affect your community. I grew up in a community that was approximately 1/4 undocumented. You know, the kids I grew up with, their parents were paying taxes and working hard and didn't get to vote. So I'm very sensitive to the issue. What I don't want to do is wade into a very emotional debate and not have time to really consider the issue and hear from experts. And so anyway, I'm just curious. I would like to understand why this wasn't examined.
Thank you, Councilmember Mahan. I think I would kind of answer it in 2 parts. First of all, the last commission of the charter was 35 years ago. There's been 19 changes to the charter since then, but they weren't from a commission. And so one of the things that the commission tried to do was to understand the values. And if you read the beginning of the report, we really kind of talk about these overriding principles and values that we wanted to see throughout the report. And as the chair, I took the privilege of saying, we looked at the 1985 notes and they weren't very good. And we had, luckily, Bob Brownstein and John Marshall Collins and some folks that actually served on the 85 commission come back and talk about it. We asked former Supervisor Blanca Alvarado about the 1976 commission, and she said she'd love to come, but she couldn't remember anything. So we wanted to have a really strong record, not only of the deliberations, but of all the research, the handouts, the guests that we had from all over the country. And during COVID, the good thing is that we could have folks from all over the country give their examples, talk about their practices, and really examine every question. That question of voting did not come up to the commission, otherwise we would have gone through that same process. And I would just argue that the process we used of having a study session, then to taking a preliminary vote to see, do we want to continue and have the subcommittees continue to dive deeper, and then we'd come back for the public hearing, and then come back for an actual vote of the commission, was a very thorough process, and one that I think we all learned a lot. And I think some commissioners who kind of came in with, this is the way I think it's going to be, by listening to their fellow commissioners, by listening to the experts from around the country, actually changed positions. And so you'll notice that we put the votes in the commission report, and there was no vote that was split or close. I never voted on one item in terms of recommendations because we weren't even close to tie. So I do think that the process of really examination is really helpful, even if you don't agree or you have kind of a notion of where you're going to be. The actual issue of voting did not come up. If it had, we would have done the same thing, which is to examine other cities, other practices, what's the law, who do we know that can talk to us about this, and then really kind of come back to, okay, what do we know and what are the arguments for and against? And you'll notice in the report, we're arguing both sides, and then what was the recommendation of the actual commission. And so if you read the report, you'll see some of the depth of research or other practices that will kind of answer hopefully some questions you might have, even if your first approach is to have one position or another. And I think there's some good research in there that you'd say, oh, I see why, as opposed to this is what I thought. There was quite often times that I was like, wow, that's really interesting because I didn't know that. So hopefully the report is more extensive than anyone ever wanted, but I also wanted it to be a historical document so that hopefully not in 35 years, but in 8 years, that folks can really go back and build on it as opposed to try to recreate the wheel, which is part of what we had to do since we didn't have good records from 1985. And the city was so different in 1985.
Yeah, well, thank you, Fred. I mean, I think we and future generations are grateful for your diligence there, and the report is very impressive, and the whole process was just thoughtful and reflective and deliberative, and I really appreciate that. I suppose why I'm disappointed that this particular issue of non-citizen voting, which is so important and controversial, did not go through that process. That being said, I plan to support the motion because I think it's an important, it's a very important question. And if we are going to dedicate the time to study it and understand it, I think that's a conversation we should be willing to have. So I, again, just want to thank the Charter Review Commission for all of its work. Look forward to our upcoming study sessions, and I'll be supporting the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. I'm also going to support the motion. And as I publicly said in the past, I am open on the issue. I think it's important for us to have a study session on that issue of non-citizen voting, as well as obviously the entire work of the commission. So I will be supporting the motion. I do think it's worthy of a lot of conversation with our community, certainly. And we've got, I think, a lot to try to understand in terms of implementation and how it works, because we don't actually run voting in our city. It's run through the registrar of voters, and we probably need to bring them in the room and a lot of other folks to help us understand how it all works. I do want to just offer again my great gratitude to the commission. Fred's right, it's a very thorough report, and it will certainly, regardless of how you feel about the outcome, the important thing is that the research is done, the work is there, and so it will serve us well in future years. And I want to thank all the members, particularly the ones that I subjected to the to the considerable sacrifice of serving, because we know this was a very extensive set of hearings and meetings and so forth. And so it's Barb Marshman and Lynn Yep and Fred himself. All right.
Mr. Mayor, tomorrow is our anniversary. We were sworn in to the commission on January 12th. So our 1-year anniversary is tomorrow. It was not the couple meetings that you suggested originally to Mayor.
Yes, I lied horribly to Fred when I told him about what it would take. And I actually, it wasn't really a lie, because at the time I really did believe there was going to be a fairly limited scope, and it became remarkably expensive over time, I think to the surprise of many of us, perhaps Fred's as well. Nonetheless, everyone hung in there. So thank you for that. Councilmember Arenas.
I also just want to add my gratitude as well. Thank you, Commissioner Ferrer, for your leadership, for your thoughtfulness, for making sure that you accomplish what we asked you to do. And not only did you do that, but you brought us much more than that to consider. And so for that, I'm absolutely grateful. You've gone above and beyond. I also want to thank my commissioners, Jeremy Barus and Maria Fuentes. Oh, good. I see you shaking your head. They were great commissioners. I know that. So I want to just thank all of those folks. I might have not assigned you to the as a commissioner, but I'm really grateful for the feedback and the input that you've placed. For a whole year, we're celebrating an anniversary. So thank you so much for walking with us for a whole year during this pandemic, despite all of the difficulties of getting together. So thank you so much. It means a lot.
All right, there's still time to get anniversary cards for all the members, since Fred indicated tomorrow's the day. All right, I think that's it. So let's vote on the motion from Councilmember Jimenez.
Jimenez,
Yes.
Morales,
Yes.
Cohen,
Aye.
Carrasco,
Aye.
Davis,
No.
Esparza,
Yes.
Arenas,
Yes.
Foley,
Aye.
Mahan,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Ricardo.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. So that resolves that we have resolved nothing. We're just going to move forward to study sessions. But I do want to say, just with regard to what we know is going to be a very, many of these issues are very hotly contested. And I really want to encourage, I know my colleagues are very appropriate and civil in their dialogue, even when we disagree strongly. We are very civil about it. And I hope that we can communicate as clearly as possible to members of the community that this is an opportunity for all of us to demonstrate what kind of community we are. I think, like many of you, I despise the demonization, for example, of undocumented immigrants and the very use of the term alien and undocumented, or I'm sorry, rather of illegal. Undocumented, I think, is quite appropriate, but illegal, I think, find quite offensive. On the other hand, I also believe it's wrong to accuse people of being racist simply because they believe that voting is the province of citizenship, since that is, after all, something that's been a part of our country and its values for many years. So I just like to believe we can have this conversation without the demonization. And I hope that is the spirit in which we can carry this out, because this is important. It matters to an awful lot of people in our community. So let's do this right. All right, so we're going to move forward, and we still have some items to resolve tonight. So let's go to our next item now. I think these will be more quickly resolved. Item 3.5, actions related to the California Water and Wastewater Arrearage Payment Program.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, council members, and public. My name is John Kachmanian, Deputy Director of the Revenue Management Division in the Finance Department. Here with me this evening is Jeff Provenzano, Deputy Director of the Environmental Services Division. We will be presenting on the California Water and Wastewater Arrearage Payment Program for the City of San Jose's water utility customers. As background, our city provides water service for around 26,000 customer accounts, of which over 90% are residential. Sorry about that. Of which over 90% are residential. Just move this down a little bit. In response to the financial hardship of COVID-19, City Council adopted an ordinance suspending late fees on water bills from March 2020 through June 2020. In addition, the state enacted a moratorium on water service disconnection from April 2020 through December 2021. As of June 2021, the city's residential and business water customers had arrearages of around $1.4 million, which is about 6 times the pre-pandemic level. The State Budget Act of 2021 appropriated a $1 billion allocation from the state's American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA, to establish a state of California water and wastewater arrearage payment program. This program provides arrearage assistance to eligible water utility providers as credits toward residential and commercial arrearages accumulated during the COVID relief period of March 2020 through June 2021. Participating water providers must comply with program requirements, including applying arrearage credits to customer accounts within 60 days of receiving program funding, waiving any late fees accrued during the relief period, notifying customers of the arrearage credit, offering payment plans, refraining from disconnection of utility service until a customer defaults on or misses a deadline for enrolling in a payment plan, and reporting program expenses and account credits to the state. The city expects to receive full funding of relief period arrearage credits and their associated administration costs in the amount of approximately $663,000. It is thus expected that all residential and commercial water customers with arrearages during the relief period will receive arrearage credits on their water accounts. There are 1,329 eligible water accounts with arrearages. Approximately 80% of these are in District 8, about 12% are in District 7, and the remaining 8% are in District 4. Staff recommends that Council accepts the staff report regarding the California Water and Wastewater Arrearage Payment Program and adopts a resolution ratifying the City of San Jose application for the program and authorizing the city manager, director of finance, or their designees to negotiate and execute the necessary agreements, accepting up to $663,000 or the amount awarded in program funding, authorizing the director of finance to waive late fees for any arrearage accounts whose approval exceeds the director of finance signature authority, authorizing the city manager, director of finance, or their designees to apply for, negotiate, and execute any documents for future arrearage funding should it become available. This concludes our presentation on agenda item 3.5.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
All right, let's go to the public and we'll come right back to the council on this item regarding water arrearages. Say that 10 times fast. Mr. Soto.
Yes, Paul Soto from the Horseshoe. The concern that I have is regarding infrastructure, and there was payment and wage theft associated with this wastewater infrastructure. And I mean, there's a precedent for that. I mean, we had the corruption that went on with Ron Gonzalez, okay, which was shameful because he was the first Latino Mexican mayor since 1846. And so that's left a bitter taste amongst the Chicano community. They have no respect for him. And so what I'm asking for is, can you practice some due diligence with respect to these infrastructure projects and the money that flows to them, and make absolutely certain that it goes to the people that are working there? Because anytime I hear wage theft, I already know who suffered that theft, and it was immigrants.
Brian?
Thank you. I appreciate all the work that went into this because I know it's important, but I just sort of a more outside the box, if you will, view. Imagine having to pay for something that needs to keep you alive, water. Are we going to be paying for air next? I understand why we do it, and I'm not naive enough to know that but just as a general concept, to have to pay for water and that it might be cut off. I don't know how other people in other countries that struggle with even just getting water. Mind-boggling, humbling too. Thank you.
Call-in user 1.
Well, your water bill is hidden in with your garbage bill, with the property taxes. It's a total hoax anyway, right? And the only people who really get screwed over are the people like myself who pay their bills on time. Actually, I don't pay my bills on time. I pay them early because I'm responsible. But what we're doing now is rewarding irresponsibility, and people are going to keep these bills in arrears for years. So it's not fair to the general public who pay their bills all the time. All we get is rate increases, man, and the plastic finger wag in our face that we're not saving enough water, even though we're doing everything we can to conserve water. And don't get me started on all the federal and state, all the taxes that are on top of your water bill. Why don't you guys do some?
Back to council.
Thank you. Council Member Jimenez.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Just had a quick question either for John or Jeff. What I was curious about, obviously, this is for San Jose Muni Water. I think it's great, all the credits and such. But what I'm curious about is it, do you know if the private water companies are utilizing this? Most of my residents are with Great Oaks, and I'm curious about what opportunities exist for them.
Yes, good afternoon, Mayor and Council, Jeff Provenzano, and absolutely they can. Great Oaks actually applied a couple months ago and has already received about $215,000 to apply for arrearages. San Jose Water Company also applied for about 10 million, and they're waiting to hear back.
And do you know if, say, Great Oaks, for example, is doing it in the same way in that they're going to be notifying folks and letting folks know where they're available, or do you expect the private water companies to simply go and apply it to different sort of accounts as they see fit, or do you know how they do it?
Sure, yeah, it's going to be the same rules as for us, and so they'll automatically apply it to an account and then notify the customer when that amount's been accredited.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Appreciate it. And I'll move approval of the item.
Thank you. Councilmember Esparza?
Second.
Thank you. Councilmember Esparza?
Hi, Mayor. I was having some technical difficulties. I just wanted to say that I wanted to thank staff for bringing this forward. And just wanted to emphasize again, I know we've said this previously, but how important this program is for struggling families. The cost of everything is going up, water, electricity. We've seen reports of how rents are in certain income levels or rent levels have been going up in San Jose. Groceries are going up, everything is going up. And as we prepare to enter the third year of this pandemic, we know that for so many families, the debts and the bills continue to pile up as they struggle to make up back rents and really everything else. This program presents a critical opportunity to help keep our most impacted residents afloat. And I'll be supporting it, obviously. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? All right, let's vote.
Jimenez,
Yes.
Perales,
Yes.
Cohen,
Aye.
Roscoe,
Aye.
Davis,
Yes.
Esparza,
Yes.
Arenas,
Yes.
Bully,
Aye.
Mahan,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Ricardo.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, item 3.7 is update on negotiations with Valley Water and Purified Water Project. I know there'll be some opening remarks. Carrie?
I do. I'm sorry, Mayor.
Jeff. Sorry.
3.6.
Oh, we did? I just ran right over it? How about that? You're absolutely right. I just thought one arrearage program was the same as another. My bad. 3.6 are actions related to the California arrearage payment program. Jeff, take it away. Sorry.
I'll actually kick it back to John, I think.
Okay, let's go back to John.
Okay, thank you. Good evening again, Honorable Mayor, council members, and public. As I mentioned, my name is John Kachmanian, Deputy Director of the Revenue Management Division in the Finance Department. Here with me this evening is Zach Strike, Assistant Director of Community Energy. We will be presenting on the California Arrearage Payment Program, or CAP, for San Jose Community Energy customers. Excuse me, looks like the presentation is not showing. Sorry about that. Let's see. Okay, are you able to see the presentation now?
Not quite yet.
Not quite yet, okay. Let's try one more time. Okay. Okay. let's see. Sorry about the technical difficulty.
We can see it now, John.
See it now. Okay. Let's see here. Let me just see here. Okay, are you still able to see it?
Yes, we are.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Good evening again, Honorable Mayor, council members, and public. As I mentioned, my name is John Kachmanian. Here with me today this evening is Zach Strike, Assistant Director of Community Energy, and we will be presenting this time on the California Arrearage Payment Program, or CAP, for San Jose Community Energy customers. This program is very similar to the water arrearages program that we went through, though there are some nuances between the two, as you will see. As background, our city partners with PG&E to provide electricity to around 350,000 customer accounts, of which over 90% are residential. In response to the financial hardship of COVID-19, the state enacted a moratorium on utility disconnections from April 2020 through September 2020. Subsequently, electric customers with past due balances greater than 60 days were automatically enrolled in two-year payment plans. As of June 2021, electric residential and business customers had arrearages of around $9.6 million, which is about 10 times the pre-pandemic level. The State Budget Act of 2021 appropriated a $1 billion application from the state's American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA, to implement the California Arrearage Payment Program, or CAP. CAP provides arrearage assistance to eligible electric and energy utility providers as credits toward residential and commercial arrearages accumulated during the COVID relief period of March 2020 through June 2021. To participate in CAP, the city will need to abide by program requirements, which include applying arrearage credits to customer accounts within 60 days of receiving program funding, waiving any late fees accrued during the relief period, notifying customers of the arrearage credit, offering payment plans, refraining from disconnection of utility service until a customer defaults on or misses a deadline for enrolling in a payment plan, and reporting program expenses and account credits to the state. As of September 15th, 2021, the city had approximately $9.6 million in residential and commercial electric arrearages as reported to the state. The state in turn allocated around $4.35 million in CAP funding to the city to be distributed toward paying down customer account arrearages. A tiered approach is being employed to help ensure an even distribution of limited funding to those customers most at risk for service disconnection. Based on current arrearage data, it is expected that only customers in priority groups 1 and 2 will receive arrearage account credits. This includes active residential accounts with past due balances of 60 days or more, which are most at risk of disconnection. Here is a zip code-based heat map of the accounts that are eligible to receive CAP arrearage credits. The darker the blue, the more eligible accounts there are in the respective zip code. There are far more eligible residential accounts than commercial accounts, as I mentioned in the prior slide. Staff recommends that council accepts the CAP staff report and adopts a resolution ratifying the City of San Jose application for the CAP and authorizing the city manager, director of finance, or their designees to negotiate and execute the necessary documents, accepting up to $4,348,501 or the amount awarded in CAP funding, authorizing the director of finance or her designee to waive any late fees or other fees at accrued interest for customers, authorizing the city manager, director of finance, or their designees to apply for, negotiate, and execute any documents for future arrearage funding should it become available. This ends our presentations. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, John. All right, let's go to the public. Brian?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and to everybody else. I really do sincerely appreciate. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and everybody. I really do appreciate what you do. It's easy to get frustrated with about the different changes and the emotions. But you ladies and gentlemen that serve there, you put up with, well, you know what I mean. Anyways, I'm just like with the water, people need power to live, and any society should be a primary goal is to keep people surviving at the basic and then go way beyond that. So I would support this, anything that helps people. Thank you, I yield my time now.
Blair Beekman.
Hi, thank you. Blair Beekman here. This item sounds interesting. It sounds like you're explaining publicly that there can be funding things available to residential people who want to, who can be applicable for the this CAPS funding. That's nice. Anything that can make community energy more understandable and accessible here at the public meeting time is awesome. So thank you for doing this. I think if this is what you're doing, and good luck to our continued good efforts of community energy and what can be a more understandable process. Good luck to our renewable ideas, how we can build a renewable future at this time, and its local procurement process can be a whole renewable system. Thanks a lot.
Call-in user 1.
I don't understand where all this money comes from. The taxpayers, yeah, that's where it comes from. The ratepayers, yeah. All you're doing is rewarding irresponsibility. How I see it is, well, okay, the people don't have the money. I'm not in the position to collect it, but the people who are using the energy or the water, shouldn't they pay something? Some kind of good faith effort of payment? This is just complete nonchalance. Like, they haven't applied for anything, and now all of a sudden it's the 11th hour and they owe all this money. And once again, the taxpayer is going to foot the bill. Has anyone ever thought of maybe giving a ratepayer who pays their bill on time better rates, or a reward like having not to pay as many taxes on the bill? No way, man. No way.
Gabby Mendoza.
Hi, yes, I want to thank you guys for doing this kind of programs, because as a community health worker, I've been seeing in the past year and a half in the pandemic walking the streets of San Jose, the whole entire of San Jose. And these programs really help people get them out of water. And to the last speaker that spoke, listen, dude, it's fine. Good thing you have it good. I'm glad. God bless you. But there's other people that doesn't have it that good. And these people over here are trying to do the best they can, as humanly they can. And I've been listening to you for about 8 months, and you're the same thing, bro. You're just funny, but it's fine. Have thick skin, and I just want to say Carrasco and Arenas, thank you, ladies. It takes courage to do what you guys doing. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Back to council.
Thank you. Councilmember Esparza.
Move approval.
Second.
I just had one question. I understand we're not going to have 9.6 million roll in here for this program to really address the need. Are we hearing anything? I didn't pay close attention to this portion of the governor's January budget. I was mostly focused on housing and transportation. Is there any more money out there?
Mayor, this is Lori Mitchell, the Director of Community Energy, and great question. It does look like there may be additional funding available, and so we're working through CalCCA to continue to advocate that there's much more need out there, especially for the remaining residential customers, as well as our commercial customers and small businesses. So continuing to advocate in Sacramento, and it does look like there may be additional funding that we can apply for.
Okay, thanks, Lori. Let me know how we can help and support you in that effort. All right, let's vote on the motion.
Jimenez.
Yes.
Morales.
Yes.
Quinn.
Aye.
Carrasco.
Aye.
Davis.
Yes.
Esparza,
Yes.
Arenas,
Yes.
Foley,
Aye.
Mahan,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Ricardo.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're on to 3.8, which is the booster mandate. Jennifer, would anybody on staff like to offer any introductory remarks?
Yes, please. That'd be a 3.7 purified water.
I did it again, didn't I?
That's what I was gonna say. 3.7 first, Mayor.
Ah,
We know
Okay,
which
here we
one you
go.
want to get to, Mayor.
is it midnight
All right.
yet? Okay, here we go. Let's go with 3.7.
On September 1st, council directed staff to prioritize the pursuit of expanded recycled water use with Valley Water to increase a local drought resilient water supply and reduce reliance on imported water through collaborative efforts. The negotiation team procured the services of a facilitator. During that facilitator-led process, staff from both the city and Valley Water met bi-weekly and presented interests that would form the basis of future agreements. These discussions were very productive. However, it was jointly recognized that additional time was going to be needed to complete the necessary agreements. It's been a few months since we talked about it. There are 3 agreements that we are working on. One was a reservation of wastewater rights, similar to Valley Water's agreement with Palo Alto and Mountain View. That was going to be followed by amending or drafting a new ground lease and property use agreement, while concurrently working on an amended or new recycled water facilities and programs integration agreement. Based on Valley Water's board's direction to implement the purified water project rapidly, Valley Water staff recommended in December to focus their resources on finalizing agreements with the city of Palo Alto in order to proceed with releasing an RFP for that particular project. At the same time, there's an interest in continuing discussions with the cities of San Jose and Santa Clara for a potential future purified water project after their Palo Alto project. We are continuing to meet. Our next scheduled meeting is this Friday on the 14th to discuss a future meeting frequency, general outcomes, and expectations of future discussions. And with that, the staff recommendation is to accept the report regarding negotiation status for Valley Water's purified water project, and we are available if there are any questions.
All right, thank you. We'll go to the public, then we'll come back for questions. Paul Soto.
Yes, Paul Soto from the Horseshoe. When the infrastructure dollars were argued for, Elizabeth Warren, and I keep forgetting that other dude's name, man, but he also, both of them together argued for equity with respect to the building up of the infrastructure with respect to freeways, and Valley Water was included in that. And they received billions of dollars for that purpose. So within the context of these conversations, I would like for equity and an actual legal definition. That's why I've been asking Nora for it, the city attorney. We need it for all of these situations, and we're not getting it. I'm not getting it. I've been asking for it for 18 months. I want it, city attorney. Give me my definition for equity, because it was argued with respect to the allocation of this funding for these projects. That's it. It's real simple, but it's hard, isn't it? Because that will give power to us and it will strip it from.
Call-in user 1.
Oh, you guys, you're going to save the water here, please. You have done nothing with Valley Water and San Jose Water. Valley Water, I mean, have you seen what their office looks like? It looks like the Taj Mahal. The workers actually call it that. I mean, it's a hoax. It's a scam. They've been bamboozling the ratepayers, and they've been and I mean, I don't know what goes on between you two people, between City Hall and Valley Water, but man, I'd hate to know what it's like when you guys get together, like making sausage, real bad sausage. You guys should be ashamed of yourselves the way you run this city. We're paying super high rates. You guys must have enough money to pay it, because you don't seem to complain about it at all. But the taxes on it and everything else, you guys are disgusting. You're a bunch of revenuers. You
Brian?
Thank you. A little bit off topic. If people could look into the possibility of other resources too, like desalinization, everybody deserves a right to have water. Thank you.
Blair Beekman?
Hi, thank you. Thank you for the words of Paul on this item. I guess, my own feelings, this can be connected to, issues of sea level rise possibly and natural disasters. And good luck how we can work on this issue. The use of subsidy is going to possibly be important for this issue. I've been talking for months about the concepts of subsidy and equity. And I will be continuing to talk about these subjects. You know my feelings about how this should be an open subject matter. Good luck on how to work on this issue and sea level rise issues. Thank you.
Back to the council.
Thank you. All right, questions, Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Jeff, for that presentation and providing additional detail to your report. Just a couple of quick questions. One is Valley Water is moving forward with the Palo Alto project. We're engaging in discussions. So is Palo Alto and San Jose, is that a sequential process or can it be concurrent or parallel?
It would be, it'd probably be best to view it as sequential. Valley Water's schedule now would be to issue an RFP out in the summertime of 2022, hopefully getting proposals back around January 2023. That's going to be really important, I think, for them. And I should mention, they're kind of leading this in their region up here. So a lot of the experience that they gain of what works and doesn't work, a lot of that will kind of come out as they work through their proposals in the fall and spring of 2023. So any final agreements with us would probably stay on the shelf, even though we'll hopefully make progress as we go forward until they kind of learn what they can from this project, and then hopefully build upon that success with any future agreement with us.
Got it. So in the interim, you will continue the negotiations and with the hope that you'll have that complete during the period of time when there can be a go, no-go decision on the San Jose Valley Water project.
Correct.
Great. Thank you. That's it, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Cohen?
Yeah, I want to thank you, Jeff, and the rest of the team. I'm glad that we were able to get with a little more progress and at least come to an understanding with Valley Water. And I guess the question I would have asked is similar to the one was just asked. So the process is going to move forward with continuing to negotiate. There's no doubt in my mind that in the long term, we're going to need water purification at both locations. So I'm hopeful that we'll be able to make that agreement happen and eventually be expanding our purification capability at the San Jose water treatment plant, even after the Palo Alto purification is underway. So just want to make that comment. Thanks.
Thank you.
I'll move acceptance of the report.
Second.
Thank you, Councilmember. Second from Vice Mayor. Jeff, just a quick question about, without getting too into the weeds on the details of the negotiation. I know that one of the key issues that we have to resolve is what in the world we're going to do with the effluent. And are there any ideas out there that are being floated now about what the options are, for example, or is there, are the parties just not getting there?
Specifically on reverse osmosis concentrate?
Yes.
What we kind of settled on was the potential to take that for about 5 to 10 years. We know there's changes to the bay. We know in our wastewater permit, it's a separate discussion. We're very attuned to watching the impacts of our wastewater on the habitat out there. And so we had tentatively thrown out there, we would take it for about 10 years, at which point there'd be another solution in place to manage it other than going to the bay. And that's kind of where we had kind of left off in our discussions. And as we pick up again, starting on Friday and throughout this year, we'll probably just keep working with that option there.
And forgive my ignorance, but if it doesn't go to the bay, where does it go?
Well, that's so it's almost like a hazardous waste, so you can't put it on soil. You have to solar dry it, mechanical dry it, haul it off and dispose in a landfill that can take that type of solution. There are other ways of perhaps of getting it back safely into the environment, such as ecotone on a new shoreline levee might be a viable option. There's some other ones such as engineered wetlands, or perhaps any wetland features that are done in the future out there in North San Jose are also good options, other than just having it move through our effluent channel to somehow use it and blend it in with the environment.
Okay, great. Well, Lord knows we've got a lot of levees to build in the next half century. So be sure it would be nice if we could find a way to use it for the protection of the South Bay. Thank you for that, Jeff. And thanks for your efforts and your Carrie's and everyone's efforts. The negotiating table, we know this has been very, very challenging, but it's certainly very important for our long-term future. Other comments or questions? All right, let's vote then on Councilmember Cohen's motion.
Jimenez,
Yes.
Morales,
Yes.
Cohen,
Aye.
Carrasco,
Aye.
Davis,
Yes.
Esparza,
Yes.
Reyes,
Yes.
Foley,
Aye.
Mahan,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Liccardo.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're on the last item of the night. That's item 3.8, which is the booster mandate. Okay, I think I'm on the right item, right?
Yes.
Okay,
And Dolan Beckel does have some comments from the
great.
administration.
Hi, Dawn. Thanks for your patience.
Yeah, no worries, Mayor. So good afternoon, excuse me, good evening, Honorable Mayor, council members, members of the public and city staff. Dolan Beckel, Assistant Director of the Emergency Operations Center here, joined by Matt Cano, our Director of Public Works. We do not have a presentation. I'll verbally highlight just 4 key points about the city facility booster ordinance. The first, responsive to the December 21st memo from the mayor and aligned with more recent state and federal indoor event ordinances. The key requirement here is that attendees at events of 50 or more people in city-owned facilities, indoor events, must provide either proof of full vaccination and proof of being up to date on boosters, or proof of a negative COVID-19 test. 2, this ordinance includes kids ages 5 through 12. 3, this is an urgency ordinance that will become effective immediately, just as we did last time, upon council approval. And we're allowing the operators approximately 4 weeks up through Friday, February 4th for implementation. The operators were notified of the pending changes last week. 4, and last, we're continuing to explore a cost estimate and a contract with Clear to license their Clear Health Pass, QR, or quick response code reader to assist operators, if they wish to participate, with screening attendees before entrance to the city-owned facilities. We do know there'd be an upfront fixed cost per city facility of approximately $2,000 for setup. We've negotiated a variable cost of 77 cents per every attendee screened, down from the standard $3 to $4 per attendee screened. Many operators using Clear are actually incorporating the variable cost into their cost of doing business, and including that as part of the ticket price. But staff will need additional time to work with the operators and come back to council with a recommendation on this item. This concludes our comments, and back to council.
Thanks, Dawn. Thanks for your work and that of so many members of our team on this and many related important issues all around vaccinations. Paul Soto.
Thank you, Paul Soto from the Horseshoe. Today at the county meeting, Dr. Cody was confronted with some evidence, and the evidence and the science states clearly 50% of the COVID infections, Valley Medical Center, are vaccinated. 50% of the people that have it in Valley Medical Center right now, they are all vaccinated. So to say that you're going to mandate this and that it's absolutely necessary is a falsehood. And that evidence disputes what you've been saying. So either you're going to retract on record what it is that you've been saying all along and tell the people that you're wrong, because you are wrong, or you're going to dispute medical professions. Which one are you going to do, Ricardo? Because you got to do one, because you can't play both sides. We ain't talking no cognitive dissonance. This ain't 1984. Okay, so take your pick.
Brian?
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Sorry. I remember back when we first got the polio, I took care of people at the state facility who had polio. And all the other things, vaccines had stopped. It's probably one of the most powerful tools our species has ever developed to stop things that used to kill billions. And the evidence is just absolutely overwhelming. I hope we don't ever go through what the folks in Europe and Asia went through during the Black Death in the 1300s. Half of everybody died in 3 years. Half. We have a tool that can stop that. Yeah, not stop, mitigate. Viruses are not agency. Viruses are, they're looking for a host. And there is no agency there. There's just physics and chemistry. And that's our hope. And it's proved pretty valuable. Thank you.
Call-in user 1.
Almost feels like you guys are on the ad for big pharma, man. Just more and more vaccines. Hey, have we flattened the curve yet? I hope I'm going to wear the right mask to court on Friday. I'm summoned to court, and they're open. I'm not vaccinated. I've got no papers. I'm not going to take a test. But they're open. They're open to court to be able to prosecute me. Yeah, I find that a little bit weird for low level crime. And you guys are disgusting. You really are. You're going to charge more money too at the door. There it is, people. 77 cents is going to turn into $7.77 before you know it. And that's what these people are all about: power and control. I mean, it's Orwellian, but these dictatorships, they always end with a bullet in your head.
Claire Beekman.
Hi, thank you. What are we going to do for the next month? Because I think that's the real test of Omicron at this time. Chicago school teachers want to have in-home learning at this time. The same with San Francisco. I don't think the booster idea is it. I think by mid-February, we can hopefully be expecting better reports about the future of Omicron, what to expect of it. What can we do in the meantime to have good community public health standards without this booster that tends to make people really uncomfortable? Can you better explain the love and beauty of technology of the vaccine process to ourselves? Can you make that clear to us as officials, that it can be okay, that we can live with the technology of the vaccine? We have to learn how to do that. You're not doing that. Please learn how to do that. This is community health and safety issues I'm talking about. We can get through this. Good luck in your patience.
Back to the council.
Thank you. Want to offer at least some recent data that we seem to be hearing to explain why it is we want to ensure that our own workforce is boosted, as well as that we get boosters into as many of our residents as possible. And certainly we want to avoid risks at locations where we have many people convening in large venues, such as the CPA or the SAP. First, just to offer this data that was presented by the county at the county meeting this morning. I'm not clear exactly what Mr. Soto is referring to, but I'm happy to address it. The case rates by vaccination status in the county of Santa Clara, according to Dr. Cody, for individuals who have boosters, the rate is at 96 people out of 100,000. So yes, being boosted does not prevent you from getting COVID. Obviously, the great benefit for those individuals who are boosted is it dramatically reduces their likelihood of actually ending hospitalized, but 96 out of 100,000 for those who are boosted. For those who are not boosted but vaccinated, the rate doubles roughly, somewhere between 160 and 190 per 100,000. And if you're unvaccinated, increases by a factor of about 20 to 1,795 per 100,000. So those are the case rates by vaccination status, because I think that there's a bit of a misperception that because individuals who are boosted or vaccinated may contract COVID, that somehow or another vaccination or boosting does nothing to reduce the likelihood of transmission. In fact, it does reduce the risk of transmission, but we all know, of course, those who are vaccinated and boosted, we all know many friends and family members who, yes, have contracted COVID. The hope is that what we see certainly in the data is that they'll be much better off and they are less likely to transmit it to others. And that is a great public health benefit for all of us, particularly as we're concerned about capacity in hospitals, as we're seeing in other cities throughout the country that are truly overwhelmed. We've seen our hospitalizations, I think, triple in about a month, but we are fortunately able to handle, at least we're told, they're doing their best to handle it now, but we've got very stressed, overworked healthcare workers that are stretched to their limits, and we don't want to burden that system anymore because we know what it looks like in other cities. It means they're putting people outside, triaging care in ways that is obviously causing both a risk to life and a loss of life. If I could get the ability to share the screen, do I have that ability, Tony?
Yes, you do.
Okay, great. I just want to show two more slides from other cities just to be able to illustrate this isn't just Santa Clara. This is what we've seen just in the New York Times this morning. I'm going to try to share screen. We'll see if this works. Huh. Anybody seeing anything yet? I'm guessing the answer is no. Oh, there we go. Here we go. This is it.
Yeah, that's it. I'm sharing my screen because I was going to share the same thing during my comments. So go ahead.
Fabulous.
My slide.
Beat you to it. I'm glad you get the times too, Councilmember Cohen. So this is this is weekly cases. This is not hospitalizations, but this is just the issue. Oh, somebody else had it up.
No, I'm scrolling down to hospitalizations now, so you can see the hospitalization.
Oh, you got it.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you, Councilmember Cohen. You beat me to it. Yeah, so here's the hospitalizations. This is obviously the story we all know. Dramatic differences in New York City and Seattle between those who are vaccinated and those who aren't. And then as Councilmember Cohen scrolls up to see what was going on with the actual infections, we'll get to deaths in a moment. Here's the infections. Yes, the number of cases, the rate of infection is dramatically different as well between those who are vaccinated and not vaccinated. So this is obviously of great value in reducing transmission as well. So I will leave it there, and Councilmember Cohen can probably describe it in far greater detail. Anyway, that's why we're doing it. I'd like to believe it is not some great ploy or conspiracy, because if it is, I'm not aware of what the purpose of the conspiracy is other than trying to save lives. Councilmember Davis.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate those New York Times graphics. I saw them whenever they came out, or maybe this morning. I can't remember when they came out, but they're very alarming, and it makes a good case for vaccinations. And I do very much sympathize with our healthcare workers feeling like they're rolling the same stone up the hill every single day. I do have a couple of questions. I just want to make sure I understand. I got this late. It was today during the meeting. So Dolan, if you don't know the answer to this, not being a healthcare professional, I'm not going to hold it against you. But I got some information about a Kaiser study about myopericarditis, and that being higher rates in vaccinated young males, ages 12 to 17 after they get their second dose, and the same with 18 to 24 years after they get their second dose. Are you aware of that issue? And I don't even know what that is. It's some kind of inflammation of heart tissue or heart ventricle, but I don't know the severity of it and what I could read from it from the just during our meeting, what I could read of it. It doesn't talk about how severe that side effect is. Are you aware of that issue and how severe that is?
So, Councilmember Davis, and we can definitely look into it more with the county and get back to you. You know, any adverse reaction to any vaccine is recorded in the vaccine allergic reaction database that the federal government has, and every doctor has to report that, whether it's a reaction to the vaccine or just something that they already had before they had the vaccine. So, I mean, generally speaking, there's been no major, you know, heart or other issues documented in that by the doctors. But we can look into that more and find out specifically what that is in collaboration with the county, who are our healthcare experts.
Thanks. Yeah, and just they had confidence intervals around the estimates, and they're really, really large confidence intervals, which means it's not clear that it would be statistically significant, even though it's a big jump from the mean. So I wasn't sure about that. I just wanted to ask, and I appreciate if you could get more information, that would be really helpful. Just because, frankly, partially because I actually have a teen boy who hasn't gotten boosted yet. And I don't know what the issue might be for a third dose. And I know that hasn't been studied yet. So I'm just interested in that. Someone with, you know, a teen boy wrote to me and said, hey, he'd really like to go to Sharks games. But I think the proof of a negative COVID test means he could go to Sharks games anyway, even if he's not fully vaccinated. I think he's had one dose.
Right. So the definitions are, you know, clear. If it's whatever you've been eligible in the time frame to get, if you've had that, then you're fully vaccinated or up to date with the booster. So in that situation, I think what's easier with the operators and easier for the public to understand is we don't have these 10 different exceptions and different rules for the different exceptions. It's either you're fully vaccinated and up to date with your booster or a negative test.
And can you talk about the negative test requirements? It just says in the recommendation pursuant to state guidelines. What does that mean? And I know because of the holidays, tests were hard to get. Does that mean, you know, they get swabbed at the door, or they can take their at-home test and swab themselves and show the result, or do they have to have a negative PCR? What's the requirement there?
So you asked lots of questions. So first of all, in the ordinance, we made it clear the type of test options that are available. We did not take the state's recommendation because the state is actually, if you read it, they're recommending a certain type of test, and they're requiring, the state requires the operator to actually make a judgment about asymptomatic or not. We did not want to put our operators in that situation. We did not want to recommend one of the two types of tests. So we provided the two types of tests that are available, and then we referenced the state guidelines on the time frame by which those tests have to be taken before you can enter a facility. So it is two types of tests. It is the PCR and the AT, or the antigen test. They have different interval requirements, and that's very clear in the state guidelines, and we'll put that in the FAQs. Then the second, I think, question was, well, I think that answers your question. There's two types of tests, either one. They're very clear in the ordinance, and they'll be very clear in the FAQs. They have two different types of intervals per the state guidelines. Then the last thing you asked is, actually, some of the operators are considering setting up an on-site rapid test prior to entry into the facility, because some of the operators are feeling that would actually make their operations more efficient. So you may want to check with the operator once this is implemented in February 4th. There may be some options to be tested on site. Otherwise, the testing options are clear in the ordinance and the FAQs that we'll be publishing soon.
Okay, thank you. And then my final question, this is not related to vaccinations or testing. Are we still, every place indoors is requiring masking right now. Is that correct?
That is correct. There's a state mandate and there's the county mandate. Indoors, masking, full stop.
Okay, thank you. Just, I wear a mask everywhere, and in fact, I've gone to KN95s since, well, for the last, I guess, 3 weeks now or 4 weeks now, and yeah, so I highly recommend those for everybody. KN95s, you can get them on Amazon in a nice box of disposables. Thank you.
All right, Councilman Cohen.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for, I was gonna share the exact same thing. That's why it was up on my screen already. But just to get into the numbers a little bit, the weekly cases in New York are about 3,500 per 100,000 versus 500 for vaccinated. So it's a significant difference. But keep in mind, in an area like ours where we have 80% vaccination, you then can multiply by 4 the bottom number in terms of total cases, because there'll be more people are vaccinated. So it'll look like vaccinated people are getting it at a higher rate, but they're not. It's only because we have so many vaccinated people in our county that it might look that way. It's important for us to understand the impact. The even more striking part was the deaths per 100,000. In Seattle, there's 1 death per 100,000 people, and there's basically 0. I mean, it's 0. Nobody's dying from COVID who's vaccinated in almost anywhere right now. It's really only unvaccinated people who are at risk of dying. The bigger issue, of course, is spreading COVID. So we want to reduce that, and people who are vaccinated and boosted have a shorter incubation, a shorter period of infection, and therefore and a lower viral load, and therefore are less likely to infect others. And that's really how we're going to stop this pandemic. So I appreciate that we're having this conversation. I did get the data this morning from the county as well, and separate from the infection rate in the county, the hospitalization rate in the county, striking differences. It's 38 per 100,000 people are hospitalized if they're unvaccinated right now, but only 1.7 per 100,000 if they're vaccinated. So it's a 30x difference in terms of hospitalization rate in our county. So it shows how important those vaccinations are. So anyway, I wanted to make sure that everyone was aware of that data. I think it's important that we encourage people to get boosted. I will say I live with one of those overstressed and overworked healthcare workers. So I see it every day, and over the weekend, the number of calls coming in is skyrocketing because of the rapid spread of this virus right now. It's all completely disruptive to, and the number of patients is just going way up. Good news is that if they're vaccinated, they're likely to not get too seriously ill. The myocarditis, there is some theory out there that given the lower risk of severe illness for teens, that the risk of myocarditis might approach parity. But what I've been reading is that the rate of recovery of myocarditis is very high, and very, very few people are getting long-term effect from it, and therefore it still is better. As a spouse of a medical professional, we're getting our 15-year-old son boosted next week, the very first weekend, we could get an appointment. So we're not hesitating in our family to do that with our 15-year-old who's getting boosted this Friday. So anyway, I just wanted to make sure we all understand the data, because the data is what drives these decisions. And I appreciate that the mayor was on top of this, because the sooner we get people boosted, the sooner we'll come out of this. And don't for a moment think that Omicron's our last variant. We're going to be dealing with variants probably for a while. So this isn't just about this surge, but it's about the year ahead, and hopefully not too many more years after that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Carrasco?
Thank you. And I just want to thank Councilmember Cohen for putting up those numbers. I think that alone just speaks volumes about what we're facing and the effectiveness of the vaccine, which doesn't mean that you're not going to get sick. It just means that it's working and that you get sick, but you don't get as sick. And I have to just say, as a family of 5, we all got sick during the holidays. And we can't figure out where we got sick. No one comes into my house. We had to cancel Christmas and had to isolate completely. Out of the 5, 2 of us were boosted, and they showed no symptoms whatsoever. And 3 of us were not boosted. And I ended up getting the sickest of all. I was just about to go get boosted when I decided to take a test just to make sure that I was cleared. And had it not been for my positive test, nobody would have known that they were sick. And it just became a domino effect days right after. I'm still dealing with a cough that won't go away. So we were the perfect test lab, in my opinion, for all of us that had the booster or didn't have the booster or hadn't qualified for the booster. My daughters weren't able to get the booster because of their age. And so, for those who are listening, I sure hope that people have come around and believe that vaccination is the way to go, and boostering is that next step, because we're seeing that once you get the vaccine, the effectiveness starts to diminish very quickly after that. And the last thing I'm going to say about this is, as someone who took care of 2 elderly parents until they succumbed to their illnesses, I constantly go back to those days when I took care of my homebound, bedbound parents. And they often ended up in the emergency room for one thing or another. They had very complicated illnesses. And the thought of them being here with me now during the pandemic is a frightening experience, even though they're not with me. I think about them and their needs and how they quickly deteriorated towards the end of their lives. And the thought of putting them in the car right now and having to go into the emergency room with what's happening now and how contagious this is, and having to potentially having to face my parents at the end of their lives with this dreaded disease is a frightening notion, even with my parents not here. Truly, my parents had an opportunity to leave this earth with their families all around them, holding their hand, talking to them, and wishing them well into their next life, but really being surrounded by the people that they love. And my heart is it breaks for those family members that just can't be with their loved ones. And I want to say this: I've lost several family members because of COVID. A few in Mexico, some here. We've had some very close calls. A family member that just came out of intensive care after 9 months. She was in intensive care for 9 months. We didn't know if she was going to survive. It is a frightening experience. It is truly a taxing experience on the entire family, on the not just the immediate family, but everybody that family member touches. And because it's such a painful disease, it really takes a toll on the family. So I do hope that people really heed the warning If we haven't learned anything in the past 2 years, I mean, I don't know what else to say. But I'm a true believer of the vaccine and of the booster. I've seen it for myself, and the masks, and of course, social distancing, as painful as it is not to be in our normal patterns. I hope that we will soon enough, for the sake of my own children and those of all our loved ones. Thank you.
Thank you, council member. Any other comments?
You have a motion?
I don't think we have a motion.
I'll move that we do the booster mandate.
Second.
Okay, it's a motion and second. Any discussion? Let's vote.
Jimenez,
Yes.
Peralez,
Yes.
Cohen,
Aye.
Carrasco,
Aye.
Davis,
Yes.
Esparza,
Yes.
Arenas,
Yes.
Foley,
Aye.
Mahan,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Ricardo.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, so that concludes the items on our agenda. As a late holiday gift, you all get nearly 2 hours of your life back. Let's go to public comment for open forum.
Paul Soto.
Well, what value is there of a life, Mayor Ricardo, unless you give it in the service of others? My name is Paul Soto, and I'm from the Horseshoe. I want to thank Councilwoman Arenas. You are absolutely 100% right. A Chicano is not an actual person, but in the spirit of self-determination. The same as when a homosexual says that I am a woman, but it's actually biologically a man. Everyone respects that. They respect that. And they call him a woman. We are Chicanos, and we demand that we be called Chicanos because we have fought in Ernestina Garcia, Silvia Raquel Silva, Consuelo Rodriguez. These are women that fought hard. I mean, I'm talking the street. Ernestina Garcia took on the cops. She took on City Hall. She took on mayors. She took on the sheriff's department. Those are my heroes because they were just like my mother, the Chicano community that bore me. And Ray Mendoza, hey, homie, get a hold of me, brother.
Call-in user 1.
Mandates, fines, fees, taxes. That's what forcing people to do things. Ordinances, city ordinances are the most fascistic thing there is. You guys are a bunch of petty dictators in your little rinky-dink districts that are terrible. That includes the one I'm in, Pam Foley, District 9. It's terrible. Burned out buildings, everything. I mean, we got a crime spree going on here with shootings at Oak Ridge. You've got smashing grass, busted out windows of Asian-owned businesses, nothing being said. Oh, hey, what about the synagogue that burned down not far from where I live? Real classy, San Jose. No after actions report on any of these things. I contact the police department. Nobody ever gets back to you. They're too good. They're too smug. They're too arrogant to even get back to you. I just get back. If they do, it's with snarky answers.
Blair Beekman.
Hi, Blair Beekman here. Thanks for the meeting today. Mask use seems to be really important for the next few weeks and months here in San Jose and in California. Good luck to that continued use. I'm sorry I didn't mention mask use at the last meeting of December last year. I'd mentioned it all week, and then I learned that people were getting sick afterwards. I'm sorry I didn't mention it. I'm going to be mentioning all this week in the next few weeks, the wonders of racial equity, health and human services, open public policies, and accountability. That, if you've noticed, there's kind of a law enforcement wave going throughout many Bay Area communities at this time, law enforcement to handle issues at this time. I still think that we can rely on reimagine and racial equity and openness and accountability and health and human services as important ways to address our issues at this time. Good luck.
Back to the council.
All right, thank you, everybody. Happy New Year.